Gather around, freaks. We're back in the forests in Appalachia, and there's a stomping going around, and a big stinky monster is here. But that's just me in the woods, smoking weed, drinking beer, and gather around your net fire and gather around your internet radio because it's that time of week once again when we ask ourselves, "Hey, did you see this one?"
There's something in the woods. Something between the trees. Something in the dark. Underground. Beneath the water. Something in the sky. But what could it be? This month, Hey, Did You See This One? Invites you to stare into the glowing green eyes of mystery, into the mouth of a fanged beast, to hold your breath as you break for the surface, because something is chasing you, and it might just be a crazy cryptid.
Everybody,
I burped and I didn't have my mic on.
Hey everybody, did the news get around about a guy named Harry and his family, the Hendersons? Hello everybody, and welcome back to it's Thursday, so you know what that means. It's time to talk about a movie on the hit program. Hey, did you see this one? We are, of course, neck deep in the Appalachian Mountains of Seattle. Nope, there's separate sides of the country. But, you know, there's mountains and there's woods. And there's an old fur man creeping and crapping. This is episode 147. I just talk. I don't even know what I'm going to say.
We can tell, man.
Yeah. Episode 147 of Hey, Did You See This One? Season 2, episode 47. This is Crazy Cryptids Month. We are now on week 2, and we had a little bit of a station hiccup last week, and everything sort of fixed itself because back on the show for the second week in a row. What an unprecedented thing to have happen. It's Alex Gow. He's back. He's back. He said he's back. He's here.
Hello. Thanks for having me back.
It honestly feels like we did 2 episodes last week, and it feels like last week's episode was a short time ago. I didn't do the fan guessing game this week because I was in the woods myself, and I saw Bigfoot. Whoa. And he said to me, "You know what? I'm not a scary monster."
It was just your own reflection in a river.
So sorry if you guys were looking forward to that, but I think that without that, this is going to be fine. So as we did last week, we don't have a sting for it yet. maybe that's the bit. But we do have our guests give a brief synopsis on the film in question. It is, of course, the 1987 hit film cult classic, Harry and the Hendersons, starring John Lithgow, and some other people that it didn't really. There's some. We'll talk about who's in this movie. But Alex, you want to give us a brief synopsis on the film?
Sure, I'll do my best Steve Sting. Brief synopsis.
There we go.
Well, renowned animal killer George Henderson is in the woods with his family outside of Seattle, and they vehicularly happen across a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, whatever your preferred term is, and bring him home and befriend him, and hilarity and tear-jerking ensues with its ups and downs.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
Perfect. He does bury the pot roast. Buries everything. Fantastic. Well, thank you. That's our show for tonight, and we'll see you next week. Great. So I guess we're gonna go right into our brief history.
A brief history.
And just like at the beginning of the show, of course, the guest goes first. So, Alex, I believe when we were first booking this month, this is your chosen movie for the month.
Yes.
I gave you a list of cryptid movies, and you were like, got to do Harry and the Hendersons. We'd always planned to do it on the show, but let us know why you decided to choose it and give us your brief history.
Because I hadn't seen it, and it seemed to be, it's a good excuse to watch it. My history with this movie is I knew it existed. I didn't really know anything about what happens in it other than kind of the near the end part that's kind of been parodied and lampooned to death with the chasing away of Harry. But outside of that, yeah, I'd never seen it, and it just seemed like it would be, as a fellow wildly bearded man, it seemed like it was right up our alley,
Yeah. You guys have your spinoff podcast, the Bearded Bully Corner or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd say Super Beard Bros, but that's definitely already a podcast from the definitely disgraced completionist. So I thought I'd bring it down a little bit. Steve, what's your brief history?
I mean, I've definitely seen this movie before, but it's been many, many, many years since I even thought about it, really. It was one of those things that was like kind of a punchline in the 90s. You would just be like, hey, Harry and the Hendersons over here, like when you would talk about a person with a beard or something with their excessive body hair, or someone who's really tall. But I honestly don't know whether I had seen the movie in its entirety or just bits on TV, or if I just watched the sitcom that spun off from this movie. It's all possible. It could have been answer all. It's all. But I don't have like a definitive moment where I watched this as a child and was like, Harry and the Hendersons. Like, this movie came out the same year I came out. So it's not like I grew up with it. I didn't see it in theaters and I didn't have it on VHS, but it was one of those ones that I either saw bits and pieces of it on TV or at a friend's house or something. I'm sure there's some weird little freak who's like watched this every weekend. It was like their movie. You know how every movie like has a person?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this movie is one of those, I think. That being said, though, like, very enjoyable. I was thinking it was going to be kind of a stinker because it's not one of those ones that's very well regarded or talked about often or something. It's like, my favorite childhood movie, Harry and the Hendersons. No, it's just a thing that existed. I did a little bit of research today when I had some time, and there's some pretty interesting stuff about this movie. But yeah, I don't have a real brief history other than like, I might have seen it when I was a kid and I don't remember.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is a little bit more storied. This was one of those movies.
Kid. You're the one who identified with it.
I put my hand up. This was one of those default rental movies when I was probably 7, 8, 9. When we went to the video rental place to be like, what are we gonna get? And everything we had seen 1,000 times, be like, well, we could just watch Harry and the Hendersons again. And then we'd make our parents pay for this movie. But the funny thing
for our younger audience, you had to physically go somewhere and you could rent a movie. It
was only like
wasn't like
Free
rented on Stars for $4.99 and you get
Yeah.
48 hours to watch it or whatever.
There was also a brief time where VHSs were like hundreds of dollars to purchase. So that's
Yes.
why video rental stores became popularized, is because no one could afford a VHS. So people would open these rental stores. Yeah. If you were born in the late 90s or early 2000s, you missed out on something weird and cool.
It also took 6 months for a video to come out after it was in theaters.
Sometimes more than that. Sometimes it would
Sometimes
be
more than
a
that.
year. Yeah, you'd forget about it. You had a brief opportunity to see it in theaters, or you would just basically never see it or forget that it existed.
Jennifer, we are all millennials on this program. I remember it vividly to this day. I'm kind of miss it. I feel like it might come back like collecting vinyl, just because us olds are going to be like, what if we had stores where we went to go and rent the videos from, and we would do it.
It's already becoming sort of a collector's thing where you can get videotapes graded, like you send them in like you would a comic book or a baseball card or something, and they'll come back as like grade A quality, and it'll be worth $2,000 for a copy of the Super Mario Brothers movie or something.
Yeah.
You know?
I've got a copy of Eddie Murphy Raw that I could do that with, but then the longer the time goes on, the more that is just like a horrible stand-up sketch
Yeah.
where he says so many horrible things.
I watched that in school.
I think even Eddie Murphy himself would like admit, like,
Just, yeah.
like, I'm sorry.
I said all that homophobic stuff in the 80s while wearing a red leather suit.
Yeah.
And also probably kissing boys in secret.
And kissing, yeah. So yeah, that was it was my go-to. But the thing is about watching it this time is I remember that up to about the house bit, I remember vividly. And I remember that last like 15 minutes vividly. I forgot all about him wreaking havoc in a town. I forgot about that, which is fucking great. And that's what I loved about watching it, 30 years later. And I will say something interesting as an aside. I told my wife to just watch. She's like, I don't have anything to watch. I was like, try something new. And there's this show on, I think, Apple TV called The Old Man, starring John Lithgow. And while I was setting up this podcast, I walk out into the living room and he's talking to somebody on the phone about the year 1987. And it broke my brain a little bit.
Oh, it would have been great if he was like, I had a weird summer.
Well, he said June. He said June 1987. And I was like, this seems like it happened in June 1987.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's my brief history.
Conspiracy.
Weirdly, like there was the one thing that made me be like, I definitely have seen this, is when he eats the orchid and the teenage girl freaks out on him. I remember that moment very clearly. As I was watching, I was like, I've definitely seen this. And I remember being like scared for her when she was, and then feeling sorry for Harry when she's yelling at him and making him uncomfortable. I remember as a child being like, oh, poor Harry. And then he screams. I'm like, oh, God, get out of there. He's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Or when he hands her a bunch of roses and then just like hits her in the head and then realizes what he's done. I didn't remember that. Yeah. A lot of flower related comedy in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They leaned on that pretty heavily.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, I'm not really familiar with this director, but I did pull him up. So maybe we just talk about him for a moment.
Okay, so I know the theme song for this is not the theme song that I'm going to be humming the entire time, but for some reason, the music in this reminded me of the music from the television show Dinosaurs, the Jim Henson show, their puppets. So I've been humming the Dinosaurs theme song all damn day. That's just so to explain my mania here. Yeah, I'm not really super familiar with most of his movies either, but a lot of his stuff is TV. But he's directed a lot.
I refuse to talk about this director until I hear this sting.
Oh shit, I forgot. Sorry.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
I'd like to give a shout out to the active chat tonight because they're just naming things from the 80s at this point.
We found our people.
Yeah. That's why they'll need the rental stores back, because that's all we'll remember at the end. Just to go back for a second, I just remember this Gundemonium here said, remember when the whole wall would be dedicated to the newest summer film, like when
the Flintstones came out on
That was
on
more of a
video.
blockbuster jumbo video thing, but
Yeah.
they would buy like 1,000 copies of it.
Yeah.
And it would even before the movie was out to rent, they would have it there like preparatory for weeks ahead of time. You'd be like, oh my God, Air Force One is going to be rentable soon.
Independence Day is coming.
Harrison Ford's face like 1,000 times on the wall.
Yeah.
So exciting.
And you'd run down that line looking for the one sticking out because the men had had it behind.
Yeah. That was a good feeling, especially when you have been waiting for something for so long. I remember, I think it was like the Godzilla movie from like 1990.
Godzilla 2000.
I think it came out in 97 or 98.
There was
But
a
there's a
Godzilla
called
2000 that is separate from the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Oh yeah, I'm
movie.
talking about the
Oh.
Broderick version.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
love that movie.
1999. But
Fight
it
I
was
like
me.
that
called
movie.
Godzilla
I also like that
2000.
movie, even though I
didn't find out for years that I was not supposed to like it.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, you guys are right. I always thought that movie was called Godzilla 2000, but there is a movie from '99 that's part of the like Japanese.
Yeah, Alex just said that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry,
Okay.
I said I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for correcting me.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's a feeling that I don't think you can ever describe to somebody, because there would be times where you would go in day after day, week after week, looking for something very specific, whether it be a video game or a movie, and seeing the bump, you'd have this feeling of excitement that is not really comparable to any type of.
Oh, and then the convincing yourself that the fifth choice movie that you picked is okay. That you're like, yeah, no, I am totally fine renting
Yeah,
this.
it's
You know what I mean?
1999, but I'll watch Meatballs 2 because there might be some nudity in it. That was part of my criteria. Yeah. Get over it. Also, when you would rent a game and then you would, like for Super Nintendo, and then you take it back, and then the next weekend your save file would still be on it because there was like an
that was wicked.
unwritten code. I think I finished like Super Mario RPG. It came out and I got it like that week it came out, and I was able to finish it over the course of like 3 weekends going to my dad's.
Because of renting video games, it made me not play Final Fantasy for a very long time, because I rented Final Fantasy VI, put it in, and loaded a save file. I was stupid. I still am very stupid. But I rented it, not realizing that I'd loaded a previous save file. So it just started me in the middle of the game, and I had absolutely no clue what I was supposed to do.
Wow, you really are stupid.
And I went on to be like, these games suck, just because I didn't realize that I needed to start a new game. On, I think it was Super Nintendo. Yeah.
Super Nintendo.
The concept of
on
like
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the concept
Speaking of
save files didn't.
I would go and get the cartridge, but I'm lazy and doing a
so you
podcast.
have it on your wall behind you.
I have it on my wall,
Yeah.
yeah. And Mario RPG. Not to brag, but
Not
to brag.
I've got a Japanese copy of a Final Fantasy 3/6 that Michael Keenan gave me for my birthday, and I don't have anything to play it on.
There you go.
I did go back and play it eventually one day.
It's one of the
good.
best.
It's good. It's good.
We got to have a conversation about Final Fantasy on the show that wasn't related to the movie for once.
Yeah, I brought it up this time.
Yeah, but the director William Deere, he wrote The Rocketeer, but everything else. Oh, he directed Angels in the Outfield.
He did a lot of baseball. I could Google them now, and it's all baseball that I'm seeing.
A Sandlot
People
sequel.
are so okay. I guess maybe you get like locked in as a director. People are like, okay, this guy knows how to direct baseball, so let's give him all the baseball movies. Or maybe he just has an extreme passion for baseball. Like Jason identifies with Harry and the Hendersons. That man identifies with the Mets or some shit.
Yeah. He
But you know
probably
he also
did Angels in the
directed-
Outfield, and then people tried to capitalize on that and remake Angels in the Outfield a million times.
Yeah, with every sport.
He directed in between
Angels in the half
directing
pipe.
the Case of the Missing Yolk and a Gary Shandling stand-up. He directed a segment on Playboy Collector's Edition Volume 2. So that's
Yeah,
the
I saw that on
collector's
I saw that as on his filmography, and I decided to not bring it up. I was like,
strange body of work.
He's
But
he's what we would
funny
call
that
a
you were
journeyman.
humming-
he's what we would call a journeyman director, where he is just
Right.
working for money. That's what he doesn't. He doesn't have like a wheelhouse that he's comfortable in. But he did direct the Dinosaurs TV series, the show that I brought up. Yeah.
Yep.
There's nothing really here that I'm like,
No.
oh yeah, that. I love
Like
that.
Angels in the Outfield is the only real.
But I
significant
fucking
thing.
hate Angels in the Outfield because I hate baseball and I hate God. No, I'm just kidding. I remember seeing that as a kid in theater and being like, why the fuck do my parents keep bringing me to these fucking baseball movies? Because there were so many when I was a kid.
We're gonna toughen you up.
Yeah, exactly. They
This
forced
is
me to
what
play
your parents
baseball.
sound like.
Yeah. They forced me to play baseball. They forced me to watch movies about baseball. I didn't give a fuck about baseball.
He was an actor for a time though too. Did you catch that? He was actually in this movie as something called Sighting Man, which I don't.
He's
I don't
probably
know.
just cameo.
He probably
cameoing and
cited
stuff.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, he's probably. A
I
guy.
was like, what? Oh my god!
It might be the guy on the bike. The guy
On the
who, like,
bicycle.
who lies to the cameras or whatever.
Yeah.
Angles.
Oh my god, the chat's going crazy. Crash Bandicoot, Pitfall on Atari. I remember playing Pitfall on Atari as well, but I had it a little bit later. You kick.
You kickflip the old cow. I like that.
What are some
Baseball
other
Sasquatch movie would be great.
just all Sasquatch eyes?
Yeah, Harry's in the outfield.
Yeah. Oh man, they're all just called Harrys. We don't even call them Sasquatch anymore. We call them Harrys. A bunch of Harrys. All right, yeah. We're not really talking about the director at all. We're just making fun of stuff. But
Yeah.
Okay.
he
We can
made a
move on.
sequel to The Sandlot in 2007.
Dr.
Oh,
Duck's
God.
super secret all-purpose sauce.
How many Sandlot movies are there? Because
I
I feel like there
I
were a
don't wanna
few.
know. That's
Santa
another
who?
baseball movie. Yeah. That's another
There's
baseball
one.
movie that I wanted to see that one because of the dog thing. I was like, there's a giant monster dog. I want to see that. That looks cool.
There's that was the third one.
So it looks
I
like he
kind of
didn't really
remember these
direct
coming.
anything good except for Harry and the Hendersons and Angels in the Outfield.
The thing about Harry and the Hendersons, though, is that it is very paint by numbers and in typical sense of a movie of this ilk, but in a good way. Like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because it is a good, enjoyable movie. But it is breaking no new ground except for Rick Baker's involvement in that Harry face because it is wild. It's fucking wild.
It's crazy. I couldn't believe it. Let's go into the body because I want to talk about this fucking prosthetic.
You talking about the body of the episode?
The body of the episode.
The body of the episode.
It's been a while since I've used the long one.
I've actually noticed that. I think about it. I'm like, is he going to play the long one?
It's very horny.
Pretty horny. It is Brat Summer though.
Oh, that's true. Okay, let's hit it.
Ho, 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 ho! Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Yeah.
With the little
Horny.
clarinet at the end.
Yeah.
That's right. And then he's like, I'm out of here. This is of course just this is the body. This is what we're going to talk about the movie at length. It's kind of the podcast portion of the podcast, if you will. It is half past the hour. It is about that time. We made it through that opening. We got through everything in 20 minutes. So I think we're right on track to talk about this movie for the next 3 hours.
I was so excited to talk about this movie, and I took 5 notes only as compared to my 4 pages of notes for the Mothman prophecies.
Really?
Yeah.
'Cause I
And he
took
took
2
40
pages.
minutes getting wine.
That's true. It's true. I actually
but
did
also-
that in less than 8 minutes. I timed myself.
Oh,
It was
there you
good.
go.
Yeah. I took the
I'll set the
stairs.
scene for us. Oh man.
You took the stairs.
Mm-hmm. There was something going on outside. I've told you guys before that I live
I know what
in-
Jason's doing.
there's an
I'm coming, brother. Almost there.
I said on the pre-show, I'm hoping that you send me a little message on my phone to let us know.
just like anyway, yeah. I live near some mental health facilities, and there was a lot of I don't know if they're called orderlies, but staff of that place, and they were just flooded in the streets, and it looked like they were looking for somebody, and they all looked ready to tango. I was like, what's going on out here?
Awesome.
Yeah. So, how about Chupacabra versus Skinwalker? Which would win in a fight? Well, I think,
probably Skinwalker because it can turn into a Chupacabra.
but I don't know if it gets the powers of a Chupacabra. Also, what's the powers of a Chupacabra? It like drinks your blood or something.
It just is a
think it doesn't eat
chupacabra. That's
cows.
its power.
It
Yeah.
eats goats, I think.
It eats
Let
skin,
me-
so the Skinwalker's fucked.
Yeah, if the skinwalker turns into a goat, it's pretty obvious who wins. But outside of that, I gotta give it to skinwalker.
For a second, I was like, "Oh yeah, cryptid month."
Yeah,
Like, why are they doing that? It's evolving in the chat.
I think these are maybe that's a baseball team. Who would win in baseball? Probably skinwalkers.
If you've been watching the chat, that is what it is.
That's also what they should start doing instead of, making offensive stereotypical names for baseball teams. Just name them after cryptids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chicago
until it's a Mexican team called the Chupacabras, and then it becomes.
Well, I was going to
racist
say the
again.
New Mexico Chupacabras.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
It becomes full circle.
yeah.
The San Francisco Harrys.
Seattle Harry. Okay, this is a good one. Bigfoot versus Andre the Giant. That's fantastic. Let me set the stage for us. The Henderson family, George, played by John Lithgow, and his wife, Nancy, played by Melinda Dillon, and their son, Ernie, and their daughter, Sarah, not credited, apparently.
We got the mom
Also
from
present.
We got the mom from E.T. In our Frighteners episode a couple weeks ago, and now we have the mom from Close Encounters of the Third Time in this movie. How many
that's
Spielberg moms will we have by the end of this
It's-
month? Who knows?
Spielberg Mom Month.
We'll have them all.
They're returning home from a camping trip in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. George is an avid outdoorsman who dreams of passing on his love of nature to the kids. So there is some stuff within that sort of opening segment. I
He loves
always
nature
thought
right between the eyes.
right between the
I
eyes,
do,
he
yeah.
wants-
I mean, it is proposed very early that he likes hunting, but it's also then deconstructed throughout the movie in a pretty smart way, and like a way that shows you how ugly guns are and like how killing is
Rifles.
wrong. Yeah, in the movie,
Not
the movie
guns, rifles.
rifles. Sorry, yeah. That's
An
that is a
early
very-
sticking point of George's.
Yeah, he doesn't like to call rifles guns because guns are associated with violence. But throughout the movie, there is sort of an anti-gun message in its totality.
There's a lot
And I
of
like that. I like it. And
messages.
it doesn't feel like it's being
anti-gun.
shoved up your butt. It's just kind of
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout the movie slowly. Even
There's-
when the mom is like, "I didn't kill the rabbits for the rabbit frock or whatever. They were raised
Oh,
on
yeah,
a farm by farmers
the
who
mink or
slaughtered
whatever.
them to make them so that people would buy them." And she's
Because
like
they knew
slowly
people would buy
realizing.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's like realizing it as she's saying it.
There's there's sort of an anti, eating meat slant. There's a big emphasis on showing lots of different animals and forest scenes. I'm sure they were handled with
I
just the
I
most
made a
care in
note,
1987.
I made a note during the intro when the car was driving that just says lots of trained rodents.
Yeah. The movie in itself is sort of like a pro animal rights kind of message, which I don't have an issue with. I think it's nice.
And
But
by 87 standards, it was probably pretty heavy handed.
I think like during
Yeah.
the time, though, there was like the huge like anti-fur movement was like really in full swing. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like there was probably a lot of Hollywood higher ups who were like at least posturing as animal rights people, being like, we got to make an animal rights movie. I don't know, something about freaking big feet or something. And that's how Harry and the Hendersons was born. Some like Hollywood producer got a bucket of red paint thrown on them as they were exiting a movie.
Yeah.
They're like, I need to change my ways and make a movie about animal rights.
Yeah, it's like anti gun, anti killing animals, which say it would have been heavy handed for 87, and it was kind of heavy handed for 2024. Just realizing it, but like you said, Steve, it didn't shove it up your butt.
Yeah, and I don't think it's also not like telling anybody that they're wrong for not believing it.
Yeah.
It's just more so being like a good example is when the biker guy is the bicyclist. I shouldn't say biker because that makes it sound like he's a tough motorcycle man. He's like a cyclist. He is telling a story about how he was attacked by Harry, And he says like he came at me with his big fans, he was gonna eat me, and then he's like, you were scared of a vegetarian? Like he's yelling at him, right? And it's like, it's not really saying that you shouldn't eat meat. It's just like showing that there can be things that are different. And it's like, I don't know. I kind of liked it. Like it made me more invested in the.
In '87, being a vegetarian was probably for commies or something.
Well, I was gonna say,
you're a
like,
freak.
I forgot about this
Are you
element.
part of the
movie.
LGBTQ plus community?
And
there's a V.
I don't think that's the term they used in '87, but
yeah.
Bigfoot is definitely not a vegetarian. He was because, well, he's not. He's a pescatarian, really, in this movie because he eats fish.
I have that in my notes.
Yeah,
pescatarian.
He's like burying all of the heads in the house. We'll get to that, and then he's like grabbing fish out of the fish tank and just.
Well, in
eating,
1987,
M&Ms.
eating fish that was considered a plant.
Yeah, fish are
They were considered plants. I think that I'm not even like I'm joking, obviously, but I think that there was like an association that fish couldn't feel pain or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, for sure.
And like they can, they don't feel pain in the same way that human beings or mammals do. But like there was a thought process.
Yeah,
where
not
like,
in a way that matters.
Yeah, they don't feel pain, and even if they do, they can't scream about it or anything.
yeah. And even if they can, I don't give a shit.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to derail your point there, Jason.
No, I'm listening, but I'm trying to keep up with this chat too tonight. I wanted to make a note here that this family invented glamping. We get that great moment of them driving away, and it's like, we were out here roughing it, and the mom is like, you brought a generator, and we were watching Masterpiece Theater, which means they had a fucking old TV out there, right?
Yeah, they brought a little box tube television and hooked it up to a satellite, or they brought VHS.
No, they probably got it over the air.
Yeah,
they were probably like 15 minutes outside of Seattle.
Yeah, they were. You could see the city skyline from where they were. You could still hear the highway.
Yeah.
That's like, I always love when I'm like when I was younger, I would go on camping trips. Like people would be like, let's go camping. And I'd be like, okay. And then you'd go and you would be able to see a road with cars just constantly driving. And I'm like, this is okay. We're in a parking lot, guys. We're setting up a tent in a parking lot. Yeah. Real camping is a lot more work, but I like the sense of isolation.
Every time we go camping in the summer, we go to a campground. We don't have a generator, or we don't go to the electrical sites, but I bring like 4 batteries, like 4 cell phone charger batteries. Mm-hmm. I usually still have reception most places we go.
Yeah.
So I can like read Reddit while I have like campfire breakfast.
When I used to go when I was young, I haven't gone in years and years, but we would camp where you had to like take a canoe or kayak and like go down a river and like portage. Yeah. You'd have to plan out like how many cans of beans you can bring with you to be able to not be too weak to carry the canoe back with you on the way back.
When I was a little kid, it was like that in Nova Scotia, because you would just go into the woods and camp, and you couldn't hear the highway, that's for sure. But it's Ontario, and we're
camp near Area 51.
In my mind, that's just what Nova Scotia is. Everyone's counting their bean cans out in Nova Scotia.
Yeah. How many beans can I eat before I'm too tired to do any work?
You're not wrong. And for our American viewers, Nova Scotia is in the province of Halifax, which is on the east coast of Canada.
And it's, yeah. I mean, it's obviously like there's an urban center there, but it's a lot of rural outskirts.
Yeah. It's mostly bean dealerships.
I think the term one horse town came from Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So
I do mushrooms and get scared of cryptids though when I go camping every single year. I'm freaked out that
I do mushrooms and believe that I am a cryptid. I'm like, I feel like I'm not of this earth. Or I dug myself out of a hole in the woods. That rabbit though, like, is that rabbit alive? I feel like that rabbit was alive when he lifts up the rabbit.
And I killed it.
Yeah. Its eye is open, and I swear its eye is moving around, and it's like it looks panicked, but like they like drugged it or something, because it's definitely a real rabbit. Or they freshly killed a rabbit.
Yeah, maybe they got the kid to do it.
Yeah, they wanted him to like really get into character.
Yeah.
Or the kid was like, I'm a method actor.
Yeah,
give me a,
yeah,
give me
yeah.
a gun. Yeah.
For
Oh
sure.
yeah, that kid between takes was just like, well, I don't know if my character would do that. I think he would more talk like this, and actually
That kid
would
was
wanna
all right though,
hold the
man.
gun.
We've
I
done a lot.
I have a note here that says Ernie should be on a watch list.
Yeah, he wants to shoot something real bad.
There was like there was a strange way of writing little boys in like the late 80s and early 90s where they were like there was like three types of little boys that you would write, like a crazy kid who is this kid in this movie.
Yeah.
But then there was like an evil kid who was like the problem child.
Yeah,
family,
and his
where,
dad
like,
was always an alcoholic.
yeah, or like Home Alone, where he kind of borders in between crazy and evil.
He was
Yeah.
precocious. That was an archetype, just the precocious who talks like an adult kid.
Yeah, the
That's
Bart
Kevin
Simpson.
McAllister. Or
Yeah,
Bart Simpson. Yeah.
sort of like the smart aleck, I guess is what you would call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then just sort of like the pansy-ish kid. Like those are like the three sort of like these are the three types of boys that exist: pansies, tough guys, and
And they're all here
lunatics.
tonight.
Know it all.
Oh God.
And we're
They're all here
represented on
tonight.
this show. You guys figure out who it is.
Yeah, it's not going to take very long. I'll tell you that much. And then the teenage girl, I think, was the weakest in terms of writing. But
Yeah.
you know, there's nothing really for her to do throughout the entire movie. Her character is the most basic of teenage girl, and it's a little bit disappointing. But there is like enough going on with the dad that it doesn't really matter about the family. Like it is a family movie, but you know, when you boil the movie down to its basic elements, it's all about what's his name, John Lithgow and Bigfoot being.
I
in
like
love
John
or whatever.
Lithgow's only 42 in this movie. I think this is definitely the youngest I've ever seen him.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do
And-
like the daughter character though, because she represents like a pre-sarcasm world. Her whole character
Yeah,
is
she was just a bitch.
Yeah.
No
just-
sarcasm.
No
Yeah.
sarcasm. She's just sarcastic the whole time, and it was endearing to me. But Steve, you're absolutely right. The character has one dimension until the very end, when she gets a 1.5 dimensions. Even Ernie, the little boy,
I feel like 0.5 is too much. You're cranking the
too much.
dial too much. Yeah.
1.2. Yeah,
Yeah. Nothing against her acting as well. I think her acting was pretty good. It's just like the writing of the character was just like painful.
she did a lot of good face acting. There was a scene where they're at the dinner table when they're talking to the doctor later in the movie, and they're filming it one way, and then there's a pickup shot, and it just shows her just emoting just to her brother, and I thought that was just like a great, like she was in character in that mode the whole time.
Yeah.
But
But I mean,
at least she
gets
doing
like
her best.
She gets like a couple of moments throughout the movie, but they always feel very disconnected, and it's almost like, oh yeah, we forgot about this
Yeah,
character.
let's throw Sarah in there.
Yeah, we need her to
Um,
have something here.
John Lithgow. One thing about John Lithgow is actually my first name is John. So my
Yeah.
name is John Gow. So whenever I see his name, you ever like see your name pop out when you're like reading something? It
Right.
I don't,
like,
because it's a pretty rare name.
I
Mine,
guess,
Jason
but it's
Phillips.
just for me, it's just every time I see his name, it's like I'm reading my name in a weird way and it freaks me out.
I get
I've been
that.
doing some editing for this Star Wars page, and we've been doing a lot of Marvel stuff. So I've been watching a bunch of the old Marvel cartoons from the 90s. And Jason Phillips is literally a character in those old cartoons. He's like, hello, my name's Jason Phillips. And I was like, what the fuck?
Doesn't he become Hobgoblin or something?
I think he's the Hobgoblin, yeah.
Yeah.
Voiced by Mark Hamill.
Whoa.
How do we feel about John Lithgow?
I love
like
him.
John Lithgow.
I
like him.
love him.
John Lithgow, Third Rock from the Sun was a staple.
I wrote, if
stuff and
somebody
stuff.
told you you were as funny as John Lithgow, would you feel more funny or less funny?
I would
feel pretty funny.
I would feel pretty good.
My
All
dad,
right.
my dad loves John Lithgow. I wrote a note in the beginning that like me and my dad used to find him incredibly funny as a kid. I think we watched this movie as a kid. It was one of the people I watched it with, and we would just love. This movie's so like cartoony, and John Lithgow is like a head above everybody in the
Yeah, for sure.
cartooniness. That I
John-
think that
He feels like almost like a Monty Python staple type of comedian. Like he would be at home in that sort of dynamic, in the type of comedy that he does, where he can play straight, he can play evil. I don't know if you guys ever saw him in like Dexter. And
Dexter
stuff.
for
Dexter.
sure. Yeah.
But he can also do, you know, a lot of like bombastic acting, like in the Shrek movies, and there's something about him where whenever I see him in something, I do get excited. I'm like, oh, John Lithgow's in this, sick. I'm gonna like this probably 5 to 10% more just because John Lithgow is here helping me through it. And I had forgotten that he was in this because of the television show that was on. There was I forget. It's also, I think, a relatively famous actor who plays the dad in that TV show. And
it's Bruce Davidson. Just real quick, he's Senator Kelly from X-Men. He melts into goo.
Yeah.
And he's in 200. He is in 276 things. That might be like a record for this fucking show.
Are you saying John Lithgow?
No, he's talking about Senator Kelly from the first X-Men.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were saying John Lithgow was Senator Kelly, and I'm like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Now, John Lithgow, of course, is famously Beast in the first 3 movies, and that we'll leave it at that. Just kidding. I know that's Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, he was in Third Rock from the Sun.
Third Rock from the Sun. The show that I know him from most recently is Ozark. He's the senator on that.
I forgot he was in Ozark. Yeah.
He was doing some press for something recently. I don't know if it was a TV show or a movie, but all I know is that I'm blanking on what it was. But he is, again, one of those actors that I always get sort of a little bit happy when I see him. And I kind of feel like he's so versatile that I would be overjoyed if one of like the tentpole fucking franchises would like wrangle him in for something, even if it was just something weird. Everybody's going crazy about Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. John Lithgow, Dr. Doom.
Lithgow is good.
Let's do it. Let's fucking do it.
He's got that voice thing that you never really know what his real voice is, kind of like the way Robin Williams was. Hearing Robin Williams talk with his normal voice was always weird. John Lithgow is similar. And that show that I walked in on my wife watching earlier, he was just like talking very low and very calmly. And I was like, that's not the movie I just watched a couple hours ago.
The movie that came out 37 years ago.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I had one other Lithgow thing I wanted to say, and it's slipping away from me, like the identity of the bad guy in Cliffhanger. Was he in that? Was he the bad guy in Cliffhanger? I can't remember. Cliffhanger?
No,
he was in Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger?
No,
Cliffhanger? Anyone?
Tom
Cliffhanger?
Jones, isn't it?
I swear
I think it was
that
Robert Downey Jr.
It was. He says, "You're doomed now." Cliffhanger.
Oh, Cliffhanger. Yeah, no, you're right. I was thinking for some reason.
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Yeah.
I was for some reason.
I was thinking of Clifford, the big red dog.
The Fugitive popped into my head when you said that movie because I'm dumb. Also, we're dumb here on this show. Yep, Eric Quaylen in Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And then the second scene occurs.
Yeah, they hit
basically
Harry. So
I
wanted
home,
to just say, like, his comedic sensibilities in this movie are very British in like the sense of like British humor.
Yeah.
Like there's
Minister of Silly Walks kind of.
Yeah, and like not all of it, but like there's a moment where he goes up to, like the moment where he gets the guy to tell him where the last Bigfoot sighting was, and he runs there and there's like police tape, and he like goes past it and he's like, "Harry," and the guy goes, "Yes." He's like, "No, sorry, I thought you were someone else."
Nobody's gonna finish this quote.
Remember,
nobody
Alf?
in the chat did. He's back.
Yeah. Alien
in
life
Pog
form. Alf.
He's back in Pog form.
In Pog form, yeah.
Traded his soul.
Cats. Yeah, so and like I was gonna say the hat on a hat of them running over Harry and then Harry being alive and then them running him over again, sort of thing. Like they have to do the same exact scene twice. Yeah. It could be, it's a dangerous move. Like it could be tedious, it could be not funny, and it could be silly or stupid, but it works so well. Like the first 50 minutes of this movie is just them getting Harry to their house.
Yeah. I have a note here that says that George is checking him for a big pulse.
Yeah. So let me just frame it. On the way home, the Hendersons accidentally hit a large creature with their car. Thinking it's a bear, George stops the car, and upon closer inspection, they realize it's not a bear, but a large, hairy humanoid creature. a Bigfoot. Also, I want to address this comment from WorldMind. Two things kind of incorrect. Lithgow was not the villain. You're thinking of who played Doc Brown. That's his friend who gets Hulk Hogan the alien. The bad guy actually is the Undertaker. The Undertaker is in that movie. He's another alien hunting Hulk Hogan, but the friend is Doc Brown.
Yeah, don't be wrong about wrestling shit when Jason's around.
You're gonna get him to flex so hard. He's like, finally, a movie question I know the answer to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That I'm not just making up and hoping that Steve doesn't notice I'm making up some fact.
Yeah. It's not a fact if you make it up. It's a lie.
I made a prediction when he makes a comment about his car. He's like, you buy a classic car and you try to take care of it or whatever. And I thought, and first of all, I thought, okay, I couldn't tell if this car was supposed to be old in the context of 1987, which I guess it is.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, this is going to be like a Tommy Boy, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like the car is going to get gradually, like his classic car is going to get gradually worse as the movie goes on.
And it does.
Yeah.
But like,
but I didn't see it before. So it's
a station.
I should have added
the
in my
paneling or whatever. So you're just kind of like, I don't know if that was ever considered.
Yeah. Do we care?
Vehicle. Yeah.
I should have added in my brief history that sight gag where every time Harry gets into a vehicle, it like pops the roof up.
Yeah.
I remember that probably harder than anything else in this movie.
The floor kind of, I remember being weirded out as a kid, and I saw it today and was like, oh yeah, that's still weird. That's still very weird. Like it's still making me feel strange, and I don't.
Yeah. Doing my stretches.
And the way he's like timing it and doing the squats, and he's just not moving. Again, like a very sort of like flying circus type thing. And then like you start to go through like the extended cast, but when they first introduced this little man, this hunter man in the woods, I'm just kind of like,
oh, the racially ambiguous
Frenchman.
Yeah. They gave him
first
a beret, so you knew he was French.
But that's the thing is like he's moving like
like Middle Eastern.
He's he's moving like a military man, right? And so when I see this beret, I'm like, did the script call for a military beret and they just fucked up in the costume department? And they like gave him a French beret, and the actor was just like, well, I'm French now. Like, I was supposed to be wearing a military beret.
Jacques Leclerc, whatever.
My new name is Jacques Leclerc. Isn't he Poirot from the old Poirot TV shows?
I don't know.
I'd like to say I would
is.
not like to bring back wooden paneling. It gives me a weird heebie-jeebie. I don't
Justin,
know.
You should also back up your comment of saying that he's clearly Middle Eastern because he is French. He's a French actor.
Listen, not 2 minutes ago did I tell you all that I'm gonna just make things up?
Yeah, he played Poirot, the most famous detective in all of literature.
I didn't know what his deal was.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with that era of Poirot. I'm more familiar with the David Brenna or whatever his name is, the new Poirot movies, where he's got two mustaches somehow. Like he's got a curled mustache and then a second curled mustache. Oh my God. They took his stash to the next level.
Omni stash.
But yeah, like Poirot is, who Poirot is, right? He's like the detective written by Agatha Christie, and like the Orient Express and the Murder in Venice or whatever. They're remaking them all now, but there was like a long running television show that went on for years and years and years that was like a rival of Murder, She Wrote, but he played Poirot in that series, which is probably why they got him for this. They're like, we need a Frenchman. Let's get the most famous one. Yeah.
Need to take a break on the fucking chat for a sec. Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, we'll talk and then we'll go through their comments, and they're probably having a fun time just talking to each other in there.
Oh, I had a note in here that was for somebody who uses guns all the time. George has terrible gun safety. He walks up to Harry when he's like in a heap on the ground with his finger on the trigger, which is.
Yeah, I mean, in a Bigfoot situation, though, you're ready. I guess
Maybe.
He thought it was a bear.
Even if it was a bear,
I would err on the side of caution if I was approaching a bear that I just hit with my.
I think like hunting. I don't know a lot about hunting, but I do think that hunting rules are, even if you shoot like a deer and you're approaching it, you still want to treat it like it's alive still, and it might buck up and kick you in the neck or something, right? Like so you want to have your gun ready.
It might buck up and nut up. Yeah.
Yeah, it might
Yeah.
buck up, nut up, and fuck you up in your neck. It's written on every
Yeah,
hunting
and then
poster.
and
Buck
so
up,
when he
nut up, or get
realizes
fucked
it's
up.
like a sentient ape-like creature, his first reaction is just bring his family really close.
Yeah, everybody get over here and take a look at this.
And then he's like holding Ernie at
Yeah.
not even farther away from himself.
It's almost like he's holding him as like a human shield.
Yeah,
just
there's a
in
little
case
bit
he
of
can throw
human
him.
shield
Like,
action.
food.
Did you guys kind of notice? I feel like I heard you might have mentioned that they just do the same sequence twice with Harry. I don't know if that's what you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
they put him on the car
goes,
and then he comes alive again, and then they
goes flying, and then
he
They
flies.
do some intense engineering to get him on the car. They got the rope on the tree
Yeah.
and then just like drive the car, use the car and stuff. It was
Yeah, they
good.
might be glamping, but they have the knowledge of real.
Yeah, for
campers.
sure.
They know what they're doing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So
They
the
know
first thing that I really remember about this movie when it kind of clicked back, and I thought this movie was more of this, is when they get him back to the house and the shenanigans inside
Wait,
the house.
you thought it was more of this? This is like 45 minutes of them just fucking around with him.
I thought there was more of him in the gags with Irene later, where she sees him and she's like, "Oh my god!"
okay.
and then nobody else sees him. I thought there was
we have
more
to
of
hide Harry. Yeah, put
Yeah,
a
I thought-
lampshade on his head or whatever.
I think in my head this movie was significantly shorter. I thought, it was only 87 minutes, and
It doesn't feel that long though. Like
no, not at all.
There's like a gag a minute for a while there, where it's just like the entire plot of the movie becomes, what do? We have a Bigfoot in our house. How do we hide Bigfoot from people who are coming around our house for some reason? Also, why are so many people coming to your house? What the fuck? And then like, what do we do after it? But like the time from when they put him in the garage to when they finally like have, I keep wanting to call him Dick because that's his name in Third Rock, but
That's his name in Third Rock. Yeah,
Mr. Henderson. George goes to work, or like they cut away from the house finally. It's like the course of an entire night and early morning. It's like 45 fucking minutes of the movie is just that.
Most of the movie.
Well, he takes the Monday off, and then when the movie kind of like restarts, it's like Tuesdays, am I right? Mondays always fly by on the TV. The guy on the TV. So there's an actual like 2 full days that they spend in this house figuring out what to do with this stomping around.
This movie feels
Bigfoot
like
man.
the way it's shot, because it's almost shot like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where there's like a darkness to it in certain parts, especially when he's going around in the city at night. It has that sort of vibe to it, almost like a noir vibe, which is very strange for a family movie, and it's not something you really see anymore. And this was kind of close to the period. This may be like 5 years beyond it, where they didn't film family movies like that anytime after it. It's like family movies cannot look like real movies. They cannot look real. They're not allowed.
It's funny you bring that up. I wanted to talk about this a bit because that whole set piece with the garbage truck felt like more like a sci-fi movie of this era. It felt like it went from like a family comedy into like a movie. Like
well, like they're showing the guns in a very violent looking way, in a scary way, the way they're shooting them. This movie definitely takes place in the RoboCop universe just a few years before RoboCop is invented. And we all know that
they just put the robot suit on Harry first.
I was going to say, we all know that in RoboCop 2, when they're doing all those tests of like the Mark II RoboCops, one of those is Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. They found his corpse and reanimated him and put him in some armor. But yeah, it almost has like a Verhoeven vibe in the second half, which is so strange. But even the shots leading up to them bringing him home, they do a really good job of knowing when to cut to a comedy angle, like a flat, wide angle of something that is like goofy looking, and using horror movie film language in like these intimidating and imposing ways that are, when he walks up, I use it in the video at the beginning of the episode where like he's walking up and the sun is behind him and there's a slow kind of pan up from the hairy corpse onto him and he's holding a gun. That's a horror movie shot, but it's in this family comedy, right? And they do that a lot. And the entirety of that first introduction of Harry when he's in the kitchen and he's just going through things, and the way the camera language is framing both George and Harry, and like the decision making when it comes to angles, it's scary. And then you get like a funny angle of like the two of them looking to the camera and like this flat sort of like, the
movie makes a very bold decision in a moment where they're treating him like a horror monster. And then he does something kind of goofy. I think he eats the corsage first. And then the daughter's like, "You can't come in here and eat this." And
I
then he
saved
starts
up for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they just start like
For some
reprimanding him. And he's reacting to it like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm just a big, stupid, like ape." kind
This
of
is the weird
reaction.
thing. Like corsages were always a weird thing that I like had this like mythos.
Every
of them.
80s and 90s thing.
Well,
I
and,
made
like,
I made a note here that says Sarah is not reacting properly to this situation.
Understatement, man.
like
Yeah.
she got a corsage for her 15th birthday or something, and she was saving it. She had saved it in the fridge for 6 months, and she wanted to save it forever because I guess like people do flower pressings and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or, this is a thing that does not exist anymore. If you talk to like a Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they'll be like, "What the fuck do you mean you keep a flower in the fridge?" Like,
Yeah.
You
yeah.
keep
That's-
your
doesn't
wedding
happen.
cake forever.
During when he had the fridge on the ground, I wrote, Harry reminds me of the trolls from Ernest. I should look up if it's the same guy that designed them. And then 2 minutes later, my note is, it's not the same guy.
But like, there's a run of Ernest movies that would be a fun month.
Yeah.
Ernest month.
The guy who did Harry does like he did all the Star Warses and like he it's Rick Baker. He's a very
It's
famous-
Amblin, yeah. It's Amblin Entertainment,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about specifically the Harry mask is designed
Oh.
and built by Rick Baker, who is like a legendary special effects artist. I was interested because I couldn't quite tell if the eyes were real human eyes at first. I was like, are these also fake? Like, is this a whole robotic head, or is there an actor doing the eyes? Because the eyes seemed very lifelike to me. So I looked it up, and there's like a 20-minute interview or whatever with Rick Baker where he's just like showing how the mask works. And they invented new technology. It's crazy for like Harry and the Hendersons. They're like, we're inventing new technology for Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
But if you look at the actor who played the eyes, Kevin Peter Hall, you can see it in his eyes. Fun
Yeah,
fact:
no,
this
those are
actor
his eyes,
already also played the Predator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was the
Yeah.
Predator.
So he just passed away recently, I think. But
He died in 1991.
he died in 1981.
Yeah, of AIDS-related pneumonia.
Oh, interesting. So I might be thinking.
shit.
Okay, so this is what it is. It's
He also reprised the role of Harry during the TV series.
the TV series.
Like very briefly, and they
What I
changed
wanted to say was there was an interview recently with like the new Predator, like the person playing the new Predator and the newest Predator.
I never want to be referred to as the new Predator.
The new Predator,
No.
yeah.
in 2024.
Yeah.
Please don't call me that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that franchise is really trying to like, how do we change the name? Like it's
Yeah.
not working
Change it to
out.
the Stalker, which was
Yeah,
also not
yeah,
great.
yeah. Sex Pest 2.
So like, so yeah, it wasn't. What it was is that everybody playing the Predator afterwards in different renditions and different versions. There's like a body language that he created for the original Predator that is like still used today. Well, it's like things like when he like puts his hand out like this and like presses his little buttons on his gauntlet or whatever, right? Like
Anytime.
exactly. So it's such a strange like a thing that he did that he didn't even realize he was doing, really, right? And like he, it's crazy. He died in 1991, but like he probably never expected people 20 to 30 years playing the same aliens.
I think
and,
about
like,
stuff like that all the
utilizing.
time. Like,
It's crazy.
how many all-nighters did people do in the 70s and 80s? Like someone like whoever like designed R2D2 and just like drew him up in one night or whatever, and it's like 50 years later, and so weird the impact that some things can have like that.
Yeah,
Like,
they're like,
you're in a room.
oh
you're
man, I don't
mopping
know,
up.
a garbage can. It's a
Yeah,
garbage
Exactly.
can.
We look down at the garbage
Yeah,
can.
let's just
like
stick a little
BB-8.
person
They
in
look
there
down
and-
at a basketball, but it's like the mid 2000s.
It is cool though. Like I for a long time was really super into like watching every special feature for Blu-rays when
Yeah,
you get
for
them,
sure.
right? And like I'd get the special editions and all like with it's like bonus 6-hour special edition content that you've never seen before. And you'd watch stuff for like Revenge of the Sith or something.
For
and,
sure.
Like the design of General Grievous, a character
Well,
that's
I remember when we went to see, because we saw Revenge of the Sith
we saw it
midnight
together.
release,
Yeah.
and there was that guy that showed up with a camera, and he was asking us trivia, and it was me, you, and Spencer,
Yeah.
And he was going through all this trivia.
And we were getting
we got every single thing right. And he's asking questions. And we were even just like, we were doing like this almost like Simpsons nerd level of like, it's like, how many engines are there on the back of a Star Destroyer? Like, is it a Super Star Destroyer or no?
Are you talking about the Executor or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then like, there was a moment where he asked us what the Stormtrooper's number was.
TK421, and we were like that. Give us a real question.
The funny part is that we all looked at each other and all screamed TK421.
TK421. Yeah.
Why aren't you at your post? TK421. Respond. Like we recited the line.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Jason feels left out. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
well, that's cool. But I do want to bring this up because the answer is they show it at the very beginning, and it's just him walking through the woods.
Yeah, they do have hairy vision, and it's just a cameraman carefully walking through some woods.
Yeah, he doesn't even have the Return of the Jedi Steadicam that they invented a few years earlier.
I wanted to new Predator, maybe not so much. Maybe that's not a great new name for it. I wanted to just mention the scene where they're like watching him destroy the house from outside was really funny. He breaks the doorway to make it taller. He's just slamming plants into his face and just making Wookiee sounds. I would venture to guess that the Wookiee was some inspiration for this character model, and also the way that they.
I mean, it would be crazy if Rick Baker, the man who worked on Star Wars, didn't go back to his.
Yeah. That's just a coincidence.
But the sound design for his noises are very.
Yeah.
So.
The sound design for Harry is funny. Like it's not as sort of dog-like as it is for Chewbacca. Like Chewbacca sounds like a seal and a dog, kind of like mixed together or whatever. Whereas Harry sounds more like a human making animal noises, which is fine because he's supposed to be more human than animal, right? Like that's the whole thing about Harry. It's also got to be like a hard task, right? Like we got to make a Sasquatch noise, but it can't be too scary because this movie's for kids.
Yeah.
What do we do? And we can't do a Chewbacca because if we do Chewbacca, people are going to yell at us. Like, so we got to figure out something. And it's just some guy doing like culling trolls. That's a hard task, but like I don't know, I think it's kind of charming and like cute, you know, like Harry in general is like very sweet in his eye movements particular, and you know his smiles, and when he's sad you feel it. You're like, oh my god, Harry, why is
so very emotive.
We're at that first point where George nuts up. He's like, I'm going to go in there with the gun and I'm killing this thing because it is destroying our house. And he climbs up to the balcony and then climbs up onto the ladder. And he's got the gun lined up on Harry. And he really sees his eyes for the first time. And I think a good way to like show what Harry does is sort of like, kind of like this. Maybe without the hands, but that's what I think of when I think of Harry. A lot of those like covers.
Vulnerability.
And he sees it and he like basically falls in love with him right at that moment.
And he realizes maybe I'm a monster. I wrote a note at this point that says never send John Lithgow to do an Ernie's job. Ernie would have smoked Harry there.
Double barrel. And
he would have been. He wouldn't even make it to the top of the ladder before Harry's just dust.
I don't know, man. I know you guys like to think that Ernie's a little psychopath, but but
at this point he is.
He likes Harry though. He's like, we got to keep him. We got to keep this guy. But I think you're right. If Harry was not being cool and just, if he like stepped on his NES or something, like, give me the gun.
Yeah.
My Sega. I don't think Sega was out yet, but
my Corsage.
Yeah.
Well, the Master System comes out like the next year, I think. So not too far off. This is the segment too where he finds a mink stole and he buries it, and there's an obscene amount of taxidermy in this fucking house that you don't really see at first until John Lithgow's running around pulling fucking goat heads off the wall.
And he's pulling these all off, and he's got his wife guarding the door. And I wrote, George is gonna let his wife get Donkey Kong slammed by Bigfoot instead of letting him bury these heads 5 feet from his house.
Yeah.
Like, just let him do it. And then just dig him up after. Like, holy shit. she's
thing
just like
that-
pulling his fingers, and it's like it's a wild animal, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, this is also showing this like a weird culture to Bigfoot, right? And like it'll also give you like, well, you know, if Bigfoot exists, why have we never found a Bigfoot body before? And it's like, oh, because they bury their dead. Obviously, he's burying these, you know, furs.
And also they pass in and out of our realm through a portal.
Yes,
Another
yes.
prevailing.
I'm trying to make
I
a
knew
point
this was
about the
coming.
movie over here.
Sorry.
Jason's like, big feet, aliens.
Yeah.
That's just a suit. There's actually
The
like a
Mothman.
tiny gray inside. Yeah, but
Noise was amazing.
It's just a predator that hasn't shaved in a while.
Which I think like adds to the movie, but also adds to like the understanding of lore of Bigfoot in general. And it's like, okay, so if it is a missing link between humans and apes or whatever, there is a reason to be said that like they would have some sort of ritualistic burial that, you know, that differentiates them between humans and animals. You know, like even look at the animal kingdom now is like elephants have, like,
bury their
funerals.
dead.
Yeah, they have like funerals, and they also
They
have
have a
like
religion.
yeah, they like moon worship
And
stuff.
vengeance.
And they also they take revenge. Yeah,
Did
whales take
you hear about
revenge.
that woman?
Yeah, that elephant came back and fucking killed her, and then stomped her funeral.
And then
together.
went to her funeral and trashed her funeral.
Yeah.
Because she distracted the elephants while poachers took their baby.
Mhm.
You hear about this, Jason?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So it's
Crazy.
and that's an elephant. That's something that we would deem to
Yeah.
be less intelligent than us. But like, we also know that elephants can fucking paint. If you like teach them how to paint, they can paint.
I have
play
an
the
elephant
drums.
painting.
It was painted by an elephant, or is it a
Yeah.
painting of an elephant? Okay.
No, a painting by an elephant.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Because I brought this up last week, I'm probably going to do this for all four, just because I'm so fascinated by the SCP, the Secure, Contain, Protect Foundation.
Yeah, I got a couple of messages from people that were like, "Can you make sure that Jason realizes that there are other sources for research outside of the SCP?"
Okay, well, SCP-1000 is a nocturnal omnivorous ape, classified in the Hominini branch, along with genera Pan and Homo, and basically goes on to
Ooh.
say that they're pretty big, that we can weigh up to 600 pounds,
That's cool, man.
and yeah, basically similar to the common chimpanzee, which
Okay.
I would say that this Bigfoot is more of like an ape, but
Yeah,
I'd
it's
rather
more
fight
like-
Bigfoot than a
no.
chimp.
It's more like the apes from Planet of the Apes, because we find out at the end that he can talk. We're like, wait,
Yeah.
he can talk?
I can
this is
sing.
Yeah,
just like a weird like part of the Planet of the Apes. That movie happens in Seattle, doesn't it? Oh, it's San Francisco, but
Yeah.
this is just a weird remake that
Well,
they were trying out.
the Planet of the Apes, the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
or
it takes
whatever.
place in San Francisco where the Statue of Liberty is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Mount Rushmore is there too, I think.
I mean,
yeah.
the new Planet of the Apes.
They definitely-
Oh, okay, yeah. That's true.
Because the big standoff on
Yeah,
the Golden
yeah,
Gate
yeah.
Bridge.
Oh God.
Yeah, whatever. Bigfoot's not real, or is he? Jennifer Andrews, Las Vegas topless drummer.
When I was on the UFP Trivial Debates episode about cryptids, I really wanted to. There's one of the questions was, if any mythical creature is real, which one do you think could be real and why? And when I was going through my answers, I really wanted to do Bigfoot, just because I like Bigfoot a lot. But I ended up choosing unicorns because I felt like I could scientifically explain it more realistically than I could
Yeah.
Bigfoot. But I still, like, as much as I, think that there's no evidence that is convincing that a Bigfoot exists, I really, really want to believe that it does. And like, anytime I'm driving, even through like just a wooded area that's connecting two cities that most definitely would not have an ancient ape race inside of it, I'm like hoping I'll see one. you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
run across the road or
Yeah,
something.
when you're driving past Courtney Park, going
Yeah.
into the Mississauga, maybe Bigfoot's real. and he's
Bigfoot.
here.
Oh no, it's just a really hairy homeless guy. God damn it. He's got like a box of wine strapped to him.
I'm on one of my night walks.
Uh,
So we're kind of in like the second phase of the movie, which goes to what you were saying earlier, Steve, where this whole part in the house goes like from act 1 into act 2, because they kind of
there's no moment where they go to bed, because it starts with them in bed, and then the entirety of the scene ends with the neighbor showing up being like, I know you're awake, and it's like 7 a.m. or something.
Irene is torture.
Yeah, but
What's
she's
up
that
with the
character
milk?
from every fucking.
Is the milk just to make her seem weird, or are we supposed to believe that she's also got a lot of booze in that milk?
She's just
I don't know. She's always on a new fitness fad. She's like, do you have any peanut butter? I'm going to mix it with brewer's yeast. I hear that's a new fad. She doesn't even have the internet. The internet doesn't exist in 87. She's just
only
reading
Al
this
Gore has the internet
magazines.
in 87.
Yeah.
That's kind of true.
It's just Al Gore and Bill Gates talking to each other on email, and everybody else is like, these guys are weird.
Yeah.
Electronic mail?
Yeah. That would freak everybody's bean harder than I think a Bigfoot would in 1987.
Yeah.
In the future, we're all going to argue with each other on the internet about religion and politics, and everybody's going to be wrong.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about Harry and the Hendersons, everyone's favorite movie.
I was about to say, the three of you will be talking about this movie.
One of you is just being born now. One of you is recently born, and one of you is not quite yet born. And you will talk about this movie that nobody seems to care about in this moment.
It did okay, but but it also, like I said, it did well enough. I honestly believe that the reason the TV show was made is they probably spent the majority of the money on that mask, the helmet.
They're like, we
gotta bump out like at least one season of a TV show to see.
But like 4 years later, the show ran from like 91 to 93.
Some fucking executive got another can of paint thrown on them as they were leaving a movie theater, and they're like, fuck. Oh, and then they remembered Harry and the Hendersons. I wonder if that helmet still exists. And he went,
Oh, have you guys seen the what the Ninja Turtle costumes look like now? They've all deteriorated, and they look like
it's awful.
Monster costumes. Do you think that Harry and the Henderson mask is just sitting in a?
I think he's still out there. There's someone wearing that outside.
Looking
going through the woods.
There's a big hairy man with a box of wine strapped to him, and he's got a Harry and the Henderson. Then he has the computer thing with him, and it's like
oh man! So at this point in the movie, they're sort of just adjusting to the situation, but George calls the police, and then the police are like, "Well, we'll have to come in there and evacuate the whole neighborhood and put it on quarantine." And I yelled at the screen. I said, "Yeah, do that. You have a fucking monster in your house. You want to quarantine this neighborhood."
And he said the B word on the phone, man. If you want to be taken seriously, don't say Bigfoot's in your house.
Yeah,
that's true.
You should have said there's an intruder.
Yeah,
he's 7 feet tall and covered in hair.
Yeah, or just say there's someone in my house.
Yeah,
and when the cops show up and it's Bigfoot, they'll deal with it.
Yeah, they would believe you.
Yeah,
but we're glad it didn't, because I think that this is after he's decided to not shoot him in the head, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So he's like, he then realizes, oh, if I call the cops here, they might just like firing squad him.
That's a good call. Yeah. He is still struggling a bit, though.
This is like the other point that I wanted to like. This is where we start to realize that maybe his hunting roots is a show. He's putting it on. He doesn't actually enjoy killing animals. He just thinks that he has to. Because we learned that he's an artist. We learned that he's
the dad. Yeah.
Yeah. And his dad is kind of like probably like his dad probably made him watch a lot of baseball movies because he showed an artistic side.
Yeah. This is one of those things that kind of like hit home with me a little bit, where like being an unappreciated artist within your family is not to say that my parents were, not into the idea of me being able to draw and stuff, but like there are other family members that I've had that like just didn't give a fuck and didn't see it as any kind of ability and was just like, yeah, that's, whatever. Oh, you can do that. Cool. Is it going to make you money? No. Okay. Well, then I don't give a shit. And you're like, oh God. Okay. So like being underappreciated in your own sort of blood it's painful, man, especially when he's that talented. Like he is very talented.
Yeah. For
he
sure.
works at a gun store, but at the same time, it was the 1980s. So you could work as an assistant manager at a gun store and own a fucking 3-story house and have 2 children. And
Yeah, exactly.
I kept and buy like 1,000 hamburgers, buy like 60 hamburgers, and it's fine. They were
And did
probably
you see the
$1 a
size
piece.
of those burgers?
They were definitely
a little
Burger
later.
King
I wrote McDoubles before shrinkflation, dude.
I think
Yeah.
they
He's
were,
got the McDoubles and the
they were
fillet of fish, and they're
Whoppers.
like, they're giant.
were they
We're
actually
actually
like a? I don't think they were like an actual.
No, they were just nondescript yellow
Yeah,
bags.
okay.
But
Weird
They
that
all
one
knew
of
what they
one of the big.
where else can you in '87? Where else can you get a fish sandwich at the
Yeah.
middle of the night to give your Bigfoot? Hold it, that's got to be McDonald's.
to send a PA to McDonald's drive-through.
Yeah.
They just invented the drive-through.
Yeah.
My theory is that it's Burger King.
Yeah, we heard you. Burger King. Just trying to make
Wop wash. Oh, that sounded wrong. Whopper wash.
Burger King.
But there is a lot of weird product. There's like Glade product placement in this, and there's like a perfectly placed. There's something perfectly placed in the fridge part that I just like. Everything else was nondescript, but somebody clearly wanted their product.
It was like a pizza box or something. Like it looked like a like a Delicio style,
Yeah.
but like I couldn't tell because it was probably like a brand that doesn't exist anymore. Like it
Yeah.
died in 1989.
give
You would
anal
think though
leakage.
that like a scene like that, where you have this crazy like animatronic faced Bigfoot movie that's coming out, you would think that McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or whatever would want to jump on that and be like, put all of our burgers, just have him name out
for
the
sure,
burgers.
Harry loves
What-
fillet of fish.
What year is Mac and Me? Because this might be
Big Mac
after
and Me.
Maybe they got burned by some other
Oh,
shitty fucking
No,
monster.
yeah, Mac and Me doesn't even come up for another year. So maybe they saw this and they were like, "Wait a second, our burger should have been all over this scene."
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
The king of McDonald's was like, why didn't you jump on Hendersons? What
Ronald.
the
His name
hell?"
is Ronald.
His name is Ronald. Yeah, Ronald, king of McDonald's.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring this up too. When they're talking about what to do with Harry, Sarah chimes in with the best, one of the best lines of the movie as a callback, and she says, the kids at school are going to pour goat's blood all over me. And I was like, a Carrie reference in this kids movie, premium. And then we got Harry sent to the basement. That's when Irene comes back, I think, or that's when Irene shows up with the dogs.
Yeah, they get him
we
to
gotta
go down there because it's like a cave. The kid says, "You're gonna love it down there. It's like a cave, with, a pool table. Yeah.
I would have let Harry kill Irene, I think.
Come in here, Irene. I want to show you something.
Before I knew that he wouldn't kill a person, I would have been
There's
like,
something in the basement
Hey,
that you
Irene,
really
you
need
want
to
to play
see."
pool or what?
And then you call the cops. You're like, they killed my neighbor, Irene.
Yeah.
He's dead. It's eating her face.
Even though he's a vegetarian, he's like, I know what you want me to do. That's what I do around here. What if Harry just starts talking? He's like, what's up? I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll make people disappear.
They killed her with a pool ball and
shallow
stabbed her with a
graves.
pool stick. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just Dick doing it. He's blaming it on Harry. Harry's like,
Harry is an excellent scapegoat if you want to kill your neighbor.
It's true. The Bigfoot
This movie
thing.
should have been called Dick and Harry.
Oh, yeah.
5 years before Third Rock from the Sun. But we do get a sweet moment with Harry and the dog. He's hurt. They give him some iodine or rubbing alcohol or whatever, which was kind of a funny scene. They discuss keeping him as a sideshow.
Hold on. So he's hurt, right? They don't really establish how his hand gets hurt, but we have already established that he has been hit by a car and then thrown
Twice.
off of a car. Like,
Yeah.
he's probably got broken bones. Like, but they're like, let's just patch up his hand.
Yeah.
What happened to his hand? What happened there?
He punched through the wall to try to find the
Oh.
asshole of that deer
yeah.
or whatever.
That's true. He was
Yeah,
looking
that's
for the
true.
deer's butthole. I forgot.
There was the funny line between the mother and daughter where she's like, it's a boy, and the mom goes,
Oh,
"How do
yeah.
you know?" And they just look at each other.
Yeah, so we
Uh,
know that Harry was hanging dong for sure.
Yeah, they never really zoom in enough.
They
for us to
didn't
see.
have the budget for that animatronic, but
Well, you just have to watch the Zack Snyder cut.
Yeah.
He's fully erect the whole movie.
Zack Snyder's like, I want to remake Harry and the Hendersons, but he has to have a big floppy dick the whole time, poking out of that fur.
That reminds me of the like satire article about the new Ninja Turtles movies, and they were like, they're showing their dicks in these movies, and everybody believed it on the internet.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Because
I mean,
satire
that
websites
was
like
Bunga.
new.
That was like 10 years ago at this point, but yeah.
Sorry, Wendy M. Sorry, we got a little blue for you.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, the smell. So like, you know how they're
Oh,
like,
yeah, they
he
did a
fucking
lot of, like,
stinks. Yeah,
cover
PU. There's a moment later in the movie where they invite the doctor or whatever, and he's at the table, and Harry is just standing like not even a foot away from him the entire time. I was expecting the joke of him being like, does anyone else smell that? Like what is that
No, they did.
smell?
They cleaned him
They
up.
they do a misdirect with that when he walks in and says, "This place smells great."
Right.
And then
Yeah.
when he's
They did a cleaning montage.
anymore.
I know, but it should not have worked.
Yeah.
He should still smell bad.
Yeah, his stink should persist.
Would it not be a funny joke if he was like, does anybody else smell that? And then he looks, or maybe it would be too much. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be a nice moment, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
They went for the joke of they all see him except for him instead.
Yeah, everybody's giggling, like, look behind him. Yeah, look, he's right there.
He's behind me, isn't he?
Or whatever the dinosaurs theme song is.
Dun, 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 dun. That's a callback to last week.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. I think it's time for this.
I'm coming, brother. Almost there.
Almost there.
Almost there.
At the point in the story that I have at this point is George struggles with his conscience. As an outdoorsman, he initially saw Harry as a trophy. Now he uses him as now he sees him as being deserving of freedom. His attitudes towards hunting and nature is starting to change at this point. And then we're introduced to sort of the Bigfoot hunter that we talked about earlier, and Dr. Wallace Wrightwood, played by Don Ameche, a Bigfoot researcher, and Jacques Lafleur, played by David Suchet, a ruthless hunter obsessed with capturing a Bigfoot. Lafleur learns of the Hendersons' encounter and begins tracking Harry.
He said he says to the Bigfoot researcher, he says, "I tracked it for 2 or 3 miles." I was like, "That's not very impressive.
Yeah.
That's like barely at all. Like I've tracked him farther." And
I have like absolutely no tracking ability, but I feel like I could probably track somebody for.
I could track Bigfoot 2 or 3 miles. I feel like
you just follow the Bigfoot.
I don't even own a beret.
Yeah, I don't even.
They establish
a baggie
early
of hair that you have to lick to, I guess, find the direction.
Yeah.
You know, like in a video game when you hold like the 2 triggers in and it like makes a
Yeah.
Yeah. In real life, you
Licks
just
the-
lick hair.
The
and you're
Bigfoot
like,
hair.
that way.
They establish early and late in this movie that the Bigfoot tracks are fucking so prevalent in this world that Bigfoot is not a problem to track down until he's living with a family. He's like, where the fuck did he go? So George is training him to do various things, which was a funny little element where he's like, guys, come here and check this out. I taught him to sit, and then they do the like Family Guy rule of 3s, but like too many times with it, so it just becomes unfunny and then funny again. I think they do it like 5 times throughout the movie of him sitting on things and destroying them.
Yeah, I didn't that one didn't land for me, but I think that's for the kids. It's not for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Some stupid kid jumped through his coffee table after watching that.
Yeah. And there's some really interesting cinematography throughout this movie. There's a big moment later we'll talk about that I want to mention, but there's one that they do here where Irene is leaving and they pan to a shot of Nancy opening the blinds while a pack of dogs runs by. And there's a couple parts of this movie. There's one at the end too that I want to mention before, while it's in my head, I didn't write it down, but everybody seems to come out from different places from behind George when they encounter Jock. like one person comes out from behind a tree, one comes from like stage right, and it's just a weird, like there's a lot of really weird visual cinematography storytelling in this movie. And there's one big one that when it's in the city, when we get to, I'll mention it. But this movie shouldn't have gone as hard as it goes, considering what it is. Like they could have like not made it feel like a real movie, and it probably still would have been fine. I think that's what you were saying earlier, Steve. Like that's kind of surprising.
It's rare for you to find a movie that takes as much care of itself in terms of feeling like a movie that is something this high concept, that is also as wide reaching in terms of like, it's for families, it can be for adults, it's also for, you know, like teenagers, like everybody can kind of find something in this to enjoy. And, you know, I hate to be like the old, like, back in my day, movies were done right. But like, this is one of those things that it feels like this type of movie is not made anymore.
Yeah.
And anytime a movie comes out that you think is going to be like this, it's not. Or it's like something like Your Highness or something like, you know, those types of movies.
Yeah.
Where, like we're emulating a movie from the late 80s or mid to late 80s, but we're going to just fill it with ass rape jokes or bong paraphernalia, you know, like it's just like they don't do it anymore, which is unfortunate because this kind of stuff unlocks creativity and inquisitiveness, and you know, it introduces you to concepts of things that might have been scary as a kid, but then you can
Like vegetarianism.
Yeah, like the reason I'm a vegetarian now is because of Harry and the Hendersons, and the reason I don't wear fur is because of Harry and the Hendersons, and the reason I'm obsessed with very articulated robotic masks covered in fur is because of Harry and the Hendersons. And the reason that I like what the hell?
Back to the Future or whatever.
That was Back to the Future, dude.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Jeez.
Oh, did you play it? I want to go back in time, right? The power of love. Sorry, Steve. That derailed my brain too.
Did it?
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
That was a third party, I think.
I'm not capable of doing it, I don't think.
Yeah, but you did it with your phone.
No, I didn't.
Oh, was
me?
Did WorldMind?
Armed man.
Did WorldMind somehow do that?
Oh my god! We're being hacked by the Green Ranger.
Oh my god! Play some
No.
Slayer.
It was me, guys. It was me. The whole time you were talking,
Oh.
I was quickly downloading, editing, removing the guitar riffs from. And I did it. I got it out in time.
Excellent. Right. So this is the scene where they try to lure Harry into a car with fast food, which we already talked about. The kid's sad. They name Harry here. I think they might have named him it earlier, but this is the first time I noticed them say it. That's not a title drop. There's a closer title drop that I want to use the sound for. But now he's just loose in the neighborhood after this bit. And he goes to like a woman's backyard, and then we get a funny scene where like she's like in her house and she hears a rustling. She's like, what's going on? And she's a handgun in her fucking nightstand.
Yeah, everyone's just packing, eh?
That's what I mean, man. The movie is like, it's doing a job that I never really picked up on when I was younger, of just presenting guns as being these sort of like ugly things that exist in the world, where they are a sense of danger, and like the sort of like riotous panic of people buying ammunition and guns from the gun store because they saw something that scares them a little bit is like frightening and weird. And like they do a good job of not making it overly comedic, right? Like it's just a bunch of people in there, and if anything, they're doing a good job of making you fear for Harry, because the dad is changing the face to be more vicious looking. The Jesus Christ. Trying to make a poignant point right now.
Well, Tim says funny shit, okay? Well, so does Gundemonium, okay?
All right.
And so does So does Jennifer Andrews, and so does Worldmind, and even Wendy M. Yeah, Becky knows. What a crazy name.
Anyway, yeah, it's an obvious like surface thing, but like, yeah, it makes me feel like gun violence and the scariness of guns are a point of this movie in the narrative itself, and not just a thing that's an afterthought. You know, it's there to be like this guy who runs a gun store and sells guns to people, and you know, has to pull out dusty old ammunition for like an elephant rifle or whatever.
Yeah.
Is like, you know, showing us, the audience, that like violence is real and guns are one of the most violent things that exist. And as soon as people get a hint, like a whiff of something that might be dangerous, they run to protect themselves. But really, it's like they're looking for violence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary. And you know, that moment where like Harry is looking into the gun, kind of confused and like curious about what it is, and the guy puts his hand on the trigger, like that is such a uncomfortable and violent image. And like,
Yeah.
as I was watching it today, I was like, holy fuck, man. Like I don't remember seeing that as a kid, but I know that if I saw that as a kid, I would probably be like about to cry. Like, like I would be extremely uncomfortable and scared. And I was expecting like when the garbage can or whatever like rolls and they're inside it, the French guy and Bigfoot, that you were going to hear a gunshot go off and there was going to be a moment of like, did he shoot him? Did he not shoot him? But instead it's like, no, the worry is completely eliminated by like a toothless homeless man being like,
oh yeah.
And
the
it
only
doesn't-
person outside in the middle of the night in Seattle.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
they only let them out at night. They sleep during the
Bigfoot is
day.
like impervious to damage, and the you know, the French guy comes out all fucked up.
And then the joke of him smelling like shit persists for another 20 minutes.
Look, there's one really funny scene with that, and we'll get to that when we do. But during the whole thing where they're like, we got to, you know, get rid of Harry or not. George kind of gives his son the speech that like, we have to get rid of him because like he might have a family and he has to go back to where he belongs. And then we get that quick cut of Ernie trying to give the dog back to nature, like the lassie, like, go on, get scene, which I thought was like a really funny thing. I wrote that he's impressionable. And then we see on the morning talk show that the woman from the night before had interacted with, she's like the one of 6 people in this movie to actually see Bigfoot, like really. And you know, Bob comes back, so the kid's excited about that. Bob's the name of the dog, and they this is where we see
like, it's fun to give a dog like a human name in real life. Like, it's kind of funny when you're like, this is my dog, his name's, you know, Steven. Steven. I've met so many dogs that have my name that I'm like, okay, my name is slowly turning into a dog's name. But when you name a dog a human name in real life, it makes it hard to remember if the dog is not like a part of the entire movie. You know, like, you got to name it something funny, like, you know.
Well, I had to say that because
helicopter, like,
then Bob shows up and you guys are going, what?
Who the fuck is Bob? Yeah.
Is Bob Irene's husband?
It does sort of transition over to like the second.
Oh, there was a joke. Sorry, there's a joke. I don't know if this is now or later, but like there was a joke that the neighbor makes where she's like, you should have seen me in Irving's first fight. It was nothing compared to this. And like the whole house is destroyed. I'm like, did he beat you? Did your husband go up?
She even looks at the wife and says, is everything here okay? Yeah. Which I was waiting for. You're right. I was gonna. There's a really funny joke when we first meet George's coworkers. They show the like hunting shop, and they're just ragging him. The point of them in this movie is to rag on George about him being the Bigfoot the newspaper is talking about, which I think is so funny. And as he's walking away, there's this 80-yard line that's very subtle where he says, "I work with assholes."
Yeah. It was 80R, but I was like, is it in his mind? Like, did he just say that in his mind?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's kind of how bad the ADR was, or he's just like thinking it.
Which I laughed out loud at that.
I mean, you also don't know that he works at a gun store until this moment either, right? And, I can't reinstate this enough. The movie is at like an hour and 10 minutes now. Like at this point, we're finally learning about Mr. George Henderson. We know nothing about him except that he kills a lot of animals and that he has a family. That's all we know. And this is where we now learn, like, oh, he is like a gun guy. Like his whole is guns.
But then you also get the idea that that's all because of his pops. Like his dad is, because he does say that he works for his dad.
Yeah,
Previous to that.
when she's saying like you got to call in sick, he's like, my dad will love that or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, he works with his dad, so his dad clearly has like a lot of power and influence over his life. Yeah, it's also known as a pirate accent. That's what I call it.
Do you want to hear something wild, Jennifer Andrews? I'm gonna take my car down to the bar because it's real far away.
Arr,
Can I get a clap for that at least? Because I don't pull four of them out at once.
I wish I had a.
The Dartmouth special.
No. Oh man,
that one's too far away on the list.
I know. I'm gonna pull it up to the top. But it is corrected here by Tim. Thank you. It is similar.
They are similar, but there are huge differences as well.
Minnesota
Minnesota
versus Halifax. I don't know. Yeah, about.
Yeah, Minnesota versus get away from me, booty.
Get away from me, booty. Me hearties, yar. Me hearties.
Hardies.
Oh, man.
Me Hardies.
I'm from the furthest east that you get. Besides, Newfoundland's a little bit further east. But
yeah, that's when you like.
Yeah, they don't have the internet though.
No.
They work
it's
at the
okay
internet.
To say that on a podcast because they don't know what a podcast is. It's close to reading.
They think that's like a bunch of dolphins swimming together.
Yeah, I can't stand into a pod.
Vegas is fine. Vegas is a cultural melting pot, just like Canada. Because people go there and they get stuck there forever. I've seen Vegas locals. They're interesting folk.
Neil Breen, remember Neil Breen? Have you guys ever seen a Neil Breen movie?
I have. Double Helix.
Yeah, a Twisted Pair.
Twisted Pair.
Okay, anyway, we can't talk about that because that's too much. We should do some Neil Breen on this one day, but that's a whole other level of hey, did you see this one?
Nightmare movie month. Jacko catches up with the Hendersons with info he got from the DMV, I guess, because he finds their
license plate with
license
the hair
plate
on it.
Yeah, he licks the hair and then he licks the license
plate.
Yeah, when he licks the license plate, it gives him like a map update.
Yeah.
He's the main character of this movie.
And then he buys the giant slugs from George.
Yeah, the like elephant gun.
Oh, I thought you meant like slugs, like a homeless snail.
Yeah, for a slight second, I was like, "What?" Like he doesn't work at a bait shop. Did they sell bait in there? Yeah, and it's like such rare ammunition, or not rare, but like they sell so little of it that they only have one box, and the one box they have is covered in dust. And he's like, do you have another box of this ammo? And he's like, we don't, but there's 20 bullets in there, right? And he's like, I need another box. Because he's obsessed with killing Bigfoot for some reason. It's like he's taken the existence of Bigfoot to the degree of like a safari hunter, where he's like, my one goal in life is to kill Bigfoot.
Yeah.
He wants to put Bigfoot in a museum stuffed or whatever, but it's clearly more of like a glory thing, a glory hole, if you will, because every time he thinks about it, he just like sucks a little bit more of himself into there.
Wendy's gonna come tell us not to be lewd.
Don't worry about Wendy. Wendy is literally my mom, so don't sweat it.
Yeah. Okay. I thought I saw her mention that earlier, and then I was about to say something extremely gross, and then I was like, maybe we just maybe we just move. Thank you. Can I get a Jason?
Don't tone it down for Wendy. Just don't go at her. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This I do like that they like kind of show the contrast of like the shop being extremely dead. Like there's like nobody in there kind of thing, right? Like, which I can't imagine a gun store ever being super busy unless there's something crazy going on, right? Like,
Well, that's to juxtapose when it literally becomes Halloween 4 and all of the people of the town
they're
have
like,
now
I saw
become a
Michael
gang.
Myers. I need a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's here.
That's true. We got sound effects. George does put it together here. We meet the dad, who's played by Emmett Smith Walsh, who I would say is best known from just looking here
for being that guy who's in.
Yeah, he's kind
Yeah.
of just like, let's get a crazy old man, but we don't want to spend too much.
He can either
he's
be
in
like
234 things.
he's
So-
usually a character who has like an abundance of ignorance or an abundance of wisdom.
He seems,
Sometimes
you know
both.
what? In my mind, he seems like he would tell teenagers that they're not going to make it back from the cap. Like he seems like the guy at the gas station before.
Yeah.
You don't want to go
telling-
down that road.
Yeah, nobody goes down that road.
Yeah. But he also seems like the guy who would be like, funny guy, huh? We had a funny guy in Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good character. The guy who says we had a funny guy. Sorry, that it broke my brain thinking about that archetype as a character because it's fucking so prevalent.
But I mean, that's his. I think he was on a ton of sitcoms. I remember as growing up. Like I think he was on like Home Improvement, like as that kind of character. Like he played like Tim's mentor or something, and then it turned out he was racist or something.
He's still going. He's still alive. He looked old as dirt back then.
I think that
Kinda...
like John Lithgow, he was only 42 in this movie. That makes you forever 42, right? Like you're 42 until you start to turn into a skeleton, basically.
Yeah,
you looked 42 when you were 42.
Yeah, he's just been in a shitload of stuff. You've seen him before.
A lot of no last name roles I'm seeing here. Ed,
Hoyt, Kroger,
Neil,
Samuel.
Kroger, yeah.
I'm looking for something that he's been in a shitload of, and he's only been in a shitload of like animated stuff, really. But once again, he's appeared.
Well,
on,
he's
like,
got a good sort of like unique voice as well, right? I think that's why they kind of cast him on those sitcom roles and stuff, and his voice acting. But like his acting's not bad. Like I can't really think of a specific role in my head, but like I know that he's in so much stuff. He's one of those figures that's just been around forever.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure now he's probably getting to that point where his eyes are like going in different directions. But like he's probably still doing the same thing. Like
yeah. He's probably doing it more in real life than he is in front of the camera now. He's probably still hanging out at a gas station telling teenagers they're gonna die or whatever.
His great grandkids are over, and he's like, "Hey, funny guy, huh? We had a funny guy in Korea."
Yeah. We had a funny guy in Vietnam. That's gonna stick with me. That's gonna stick with me. Yeah, but he puts it together because his Jock always comes in. They called him Jacko, right?
Jacko, yeah.
Okay.
Jacko.
Jocko comes in all the time, and I guess where they find Bigfoot and this part of Seattle are like intertwined, and also the junkyard that the fucking professor lives at or whatever that place is. It's like all intertwined. It's a
cryptid collection. Like his house is made out of bones, and his like car is made out of fucking like octopus meat or whatever. Like everything is just strange around his. There's an entire wall in his house. Is it a house or a store? I don't really know. It feels like a store for some reason.
Yeah, but it's like a museum gift shop.
Right. And like one whole wall is just sketches of Bigfoot. And I'm like, are these sketches he did, or people? Does he have a little station set up with pencils being like, draw?
Yeah. Let the kids draw.
Yeah.
Well, there is also that funny scene where George goes to see him, which I'm not sure if it's happened yet. I'm sure I made a note. Anyway, he goes to see him, and George keeps asking questions, and he's like, "I'm closing in 5. If you want to know more, ask. You got to buy something." And then there's the sight gag of him walking out of the store with like the Bigfoot lamp and like a bunch of crap. But then is that when he goes to like the library and buys a bunch of books? Because it's like,
No,
did you
it's
just get
before
the
that, I think.
it is before that?
Because he goes there specifically to meet him.
Because one of the books
he
is...
learns about him from the book. Because he's a
Bigfootologist.
He's a Bigfootologist. Yeah,
he's a big orthopedic.
He's
researcher.
a cryptozoologist, a physician that isn't real.
He's just into feet, really. Just loves feet.
Yeah. He's like, I made it my scientific journey, a quest, if you will, to find the biggest foot that ever existed.
But I've tried to start this sentence like 3 times, but George puts together that Jock is the person that comes into this shop all the time because the dad, like, this guy comes in here all the time. He's always looking for something. He's always trying to track something down. And they put together that it is Bigfoot. The dad's like, I need you to draw a picture of scary Bigfoot, which hasn't quite happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get that great scene of Bigfoot trying to go home just at the freeway, and he can't figure out like what to do, which I thought was kind of one of those
it's like
moments.
I mean, we've talked about it a little bit already, but like the character of Bigfoot in this movie, Harry himself, is like, he's like a child, right? Like he has intelligence and he has emotional complexity, but he doesn't have basic problem solving skills that human beings understand, which is like understandable because he's a creature from the woods who
he is rapidly learning. I will give him that.
Oh yeah, he learns how to talk by the end. That's how fast he can learn,
and seems to understand them like halfway through the movie.
Well, yeah, when he's like, "How are you doing?" when he comes out of the basement and he goes like, he like shrugs. You're like, "Wait, hold on. Does he?"
It's a living.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't complain.
But he is as smart as it is convenient to the plot at any given moment.
Yeah, of course.
Because at one point, he's like, I don't know how like a door works, and then he's watching the Addams Family, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, he loves the Addams Family. Visually, the Addams Family is the funniest.
I'm surprised. I'm assuming it was like a Cousin It reference, but
probably
he loves that. He loves that.
I think in a Harry and the Hendersons
Welcome
remake.
Back, Kotter. The first thing that he's watching. What's the show with the monkey on it from the 50s?
I don't know.
Show with...
I wasn't born yet when this came out, so
I think that like because the Addams Family, in comparison to when this movie was made, is quite old, right? Like it's a very old show. So I think a modern remake would be Harry and the Hendersons would be sitting down on a computer trying to figure out the computer, and he'd be watching old Jackass clips. Watching Steve-O like getting diarrhea.
I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the Bigfoot.
He's just smelling fucking Ryan Dunn's ass.
Oh.
The show is called The Hathaways, the one with the monkey on it, which it's not part of my pop culture knowledge.
I've never even heard of it.
The Marquise Chimps plays themselves for 26 episodes in the 1960s. The Marquise Chimps.
Why doesn't Bigfoot use fire? Okay, I think I can answer this. They don't need it. They're covered in hair and fur, and they have enough body fat and mass to be able to maintain warmth without it. They can get the warmth they need without fire. And they probably just don't know. Yeah,
they don't eat meat.
They don't need to cook, so they don't have use for fire in the same way we would.
He just eats flowers. The guy's fucking obsessed with flowers.
He loves flowers. They taste so good. That's my answer. But also, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, they live in the woods. Would you set a fire in your house?
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to burn their house down. And they probably don't know how to start a fire. But, if you showed them how, they probably would burn themselves and be like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that again. Just like he hates getting in the car. The car is the first thing that he gets hit by in the movie. And like, he just doesn't like the car. Like he rips pieces off of it. He is hesitant to get inside of it. He's scared of it. It's like a thing that injured him.
Yeah. It's like a rhino.
Chat's talking about the Munsters, which is a great old show, but sorry to say the remake movie was not it. But my dad loved it. My dad was like, that is the best movie. And I was like, cool. Great work.
Your dad loved the Rob Zombie Monsters movie?
He loved it.
Yeah.
He's like,
I feel like
it's
that's
perfect.
Like
I was like,
so your dad probably watches like 10 movies a year and it's all movies that came out when he was a kid or something? Like he's that kind of guy?
Well, no, he's the kind of, he's like your dad, where he watches every Liam Neeson movie, no matter what.
Mhm.
He watches the Red Box movies that are made
Liam Neeson, now
for
that's a
kids.
real man.
Yeah. I'm quite taken with him.
Yeah, he always finds the person that's taken or whatever. I watched this real bad, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was just like it was basically like the Boondock Saints, but he's also just doing Taken. It was garbage. We do get that great scene where when Harry's like back, he comes back and then he's stalking the same woman as before for some reason, and we just get a weird scene of him like looking in the window and then looking over. She's cooking a chicken, and then the two people are getting in the hot tub, and he thinks they're being cooked, and then a guy comes out and says, "Hey, stop looking through that window." It's like,
Yeah.
they really put
Oh,
this
like
5
thinks he's
minute
a
scene in the
prowler or
movie.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Brah!"
I'm wondering like if he's taken with her in terms of like he just is like, oh, I like the way this woman smells, I'm gonna follow her. And then he sees the chicken stuff and he's like, what the fuck is going on? Like this is insane. And then he sees humans in a hot tub and he's like, this the humans are cooking themselves.
Humans
What's
are
going
cooking
on?
themselves.
You know, it's obviously just like a funny sight gag to do, right? Like, but if you think more into it, then
If you think more into it than the writers did, then
yeah, then you shouldn't be watching this movie. No, but what I mean to say is if you think more into it, it's like this is just Harry being like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like he doesn't want to be here either. He needs to get across.
he doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
I think this was the modern Disney thing, kind of this movie's made for kids, but the writers were writing stuff for the parents. So you could think about it a little bit more, and there's like references and little adult stuff for the parents, and just straight up swearing at times. They say shit in this movie like 30 times.
Yeah.
Which
Oh
is
yeah, it's because you were allowed to say shit. I think you're
like a
still
PG
allowed
movie?
to say shit as much as you want. In a
Yeah?
PG-13, yeah. And I think in a PG you get like 8 or something, and then they're like, now it's a 13 because you said it 9 times, you sick fucks.
It would have been great if Harry got the one fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck.
Just the last. Yeah. That's the only thing he says.
It's right at the beginning when he gets hit by the car. He's like, oh, fuck. And then he doesn't talk the rest of the movie until the very end.
Yeah.
When he says, okay,
Yeah.
fuck off. And he leaves. Get out of my forest.
Right. Well, yeah. This. Sorry, I jumped ahead a bit with the dad wanting him to draw because George is at work again.
Well, yeah.
which was
There's a moment we should maybe talk about it a little bit where like he draws like this. It's kind of a little bit scary looking. The drawing he draws of Harry, where everyone's like, "It's so beautiful." I was kind of like, "That's freaky." Like it looks like one of those images you'd see on like a creepypasta when you were 12 or something. Like his eyes are too small, but you know, in the storytelling, it's a beautiful picture of Harry. It's very whimsical. It looks like a storytelling, like something you'd see in a storybook or whatever. And then the dad asks him to draw a picture, and the wife comes up and creeps up on him while he's drawing, and he's drawing a very like scary looking Harry, like a
scary Harry. We'll
a
call him.
scary Harry. Yeah, he's got fangs, and his fur is all kind of prickled up like a cat, and he looks frightening. And before she can even say anything, he rips up the picture, and he's like, I don't like this. I don't like that my dad's making me do this. And then
I'm
he
42
says,
years old, for God's sake.
God damn it, can he, just let me run the gun store in peace? Like he's asking me to draw these horrifying images now. But
You want to draw something? Draw a scary Bigfoot.
He says, like, my dad hasn't asked me to draw anything ever in my entire life. And the one thing he wants me to draw now is something that I just can't. Like, I don't have it in me. And, like, I can do it, but I'm not doing it because I want to. I'm doing it because he asked me to. And that's when I start to think, like, oh, his entire existence is probably predicated on the fact that his dad has been, like, delivering him what he expects of him his entire life. And now this is a point where he's like, I can finally, change that. Yeah. I can give him what he's asking for, but I'm going to give it to him in the way that I want to. And his wife kind of like is the one who gives him that idea, right? Like, you draw the picture, but draw him how you feel, Harry. Don't draw a spooky picture just because your dad asks you to. And it's nice. And then you see the picture that he drew, and it's a nice picture. Like, he's not holding a flower and smelling it, but you almost, like, in your mind, you imagine that's what, like, he was thinking when he drew the picture of Harry, right? I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? That's just it's a thing that, like, it kind of, like, made me feel.
Do you mean the?
I was
picture
never
that
an
ends up-
impressed artist, so it didn't resonate as much with me. But
Do you mean
But
the
no,
picture
yeah.
that they end up going with that's on the side of the store is the creepy one, or the one that
No,
is
the one that
literally
he-
like
The one that he's drawing and looks like a horrifying
Yeah.
ape about to rip your face off, and then
No, I agree.
he rips it up and he's like, I can't draw this. And then he has a conversation with his wife, and she's like, well, draw Harry how you feel Harry is. And then it cuts to the store, and the dad's like, why the
This
hell
is
didn't I
stupid.
get
Yeah,
you?
that's not going to sell guns.
And then what does the dad do? He fucking draws all over that drawing.
Oh
to make it
yeah,
look
he gives him
creepier.
like
Yeah.
crazy,
He gives him claws, he
sharp
gives him
nail, claws,
teeth.
and the
I'll
fangs
tell you,
and
this is
red
another
eyes.
thing that like I have spent hours on images before, and like I can count them on one hand times where art that I've worked on has been defaced by another person and like changed. And even if it's just something simple, it makes you fucking crazy. So like when people deface art, like when like climate activists go in and like throw a smoke grenade of orange dust at like a painting and they destroy it, I get so upset because I'm just like, you don't understand what that piece of art meant to the person who made it. Like, sure, you're making a point to get a bunch of people to look at the broken art, but you're not thinking about what you've done to the person who made that art. And like, I even remember like when I was a kid, I drew all these images of like Jedi and just dumb shit or whatever. And like, I was going through my sketchbook one day and like somebody had erased a bunch of the faces and like drawn like shitty, bad, gross faces, or like drawn dicks or like tits or whatever. Like, and like, I was overcome with like a blood lust. Like I wanted to figure out who did it and injure them. And then like he has this intense but also subdued and vulnerable moment where he's like, that meant something to me. That image I drew meant something to me. You fucking ruined it. And it's not about the art. It's what the art meant to me, and you fucked it up. And then he's like, I quit. And he's like, no, you can't quit off. It's our busiest day of the year. But it's like, when somebody...
It's Gundemonium.
It's Gundemonium. It's the gun
I will
apocalypse.
say, that activism isn't about defacing the art itself. A lot.
I know that's not what it's about.
Hoarding the art as billionaire. It's more of like it's to defend the climate crisis. I know that you know that. But I do recognize that if you went up to a Banksy, a modern art piece, and try to deface it, or you see like I live next to a train track and there's great graffiti all over the place that people go and like draw dicks all over, and that I agree. Like I
should have clarified. Yeah, like I'm not talking about like if you go up to the Mona Lisa. Like I'm
not
thinking Leonardo.
I need an excuse to tell the world I hate billionaires once again. Yeah.
Like what I mean to say is that like,
and those fucking things are behind bulletproof glass, so they almost as
rifle
proof. Well, it sounds like you're just dismantling my point. But my point
I didn't mean
is
to,
that
Steve. I didn't.
If I was to draw a picture and you fucking erased the top of the head and drew tits on the top of the head, I would be upset with you, Jason.
Yes,
very upset.
I agree.
That's like Little Nicky.
Yeah,
I wanted to.
I was thinking of the boob head guy.
I wanted to address this that Jennifer's saying. I can tell she's new around here. She tried to apologize for being rude, and then Worldmind comes in and says that that's the norm around here. I think that she thought we were going to start playing video games, even though she's watching on YouTube. Maybe she knows that Twitch is a place that video games are played or whatever. But this is a weekly podcast where we talk about a movie for way too
longer
long
than the movie. Yeah.
No, we talk about it for as long as we need to. Sometimes it's an hour and a half. Sometimes it's 3
When
hours.
I'm here, we talk about it for hours.
Yeah,
that's how I like it.
And tonight's a special night because the chat is it's the most lit up I think it's ever been. I've never been in a situation.
I've never been distracted by the chat this much.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch this to get the commentary, it's good that the chat, you can talk to each other in the chat, but yeah.
Don't
Thank
not
you.
chat.
All right, now let's
I think we
spend
gotta
20
drive that
minutes talking about the chat. Let's
Yeah.
go. Come on.
You're right.
How do you guys feel about the chat function? It's
I like
pretty
the
handy.
chat function.
Chat and the
Listen,
Hendersons.
Wendy M agrees with you.
Yeah, she thinks
the
people
rich.
should not erase faces.
She's
She's not pro face erasure.
I also think that like climate change is a real thing and we should all pay attention to it. I just don't think that we need to throw smoke all over Stonehenge or whatever. Like I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like whatever, man.
Okay, listen, let me set the stage for you guys. The news has gotten out that there's a Bigfoot running amok. The town has got.
And then we get our cool
Bigfoot
RoboCop
fever.
montage of Harry going around and just like being mischievous, but unintentionally, which is great. I think that unintentional mischief is always comedic, right? Like somebody just being like, "Whoops! I dropped a bunch of like canisters of fragile materials and they break on the ground." Like that kind of stuff is what we get from Harry for the next maybe 25 minutes.
We get the bike scene, which we pretty much already kind of talked about. The biker who like lies and said he
we got to call him a cyclist because if we call him a biker, it's, people are gonna like conjure the image of a big muscular.
Jocko was locked in jail with a biker.
Yes.
But yet he was the scariest one in this prison cell.
Yeah. But George managed to get him to reveal that he was just so frightened by seeing a scary monster that he crashed his bike and didn't need to tell all this extra stuff. And then that's when it cuts to the mischief that you were talking about, Steve. And Harry goes up to a store window where there's a bunch of TVs, and you see him get mad about George yelling. So you feel that empathy, smashes it open, and then you see him get sad when he pulls a TV because he, like you were saying as well, Steve, like he doesn't know the difference between a human person and a person on a screen, and then he's smashing the TVs.
Well, I think he gets it, but it's like he
licks the TV. He definitely licks the TV.
He does lick the TV like Venom. He venoms that TV. But like he's feeling emotions, right? Like he's just feeling emotions and they're raw and he doesn't know how to handle them, right? Because he's used to just being in nature and being like, and
that's
not like
a deer, that's a bird.
Yeah, exactly. Not seeing a person that he cares about being, because the reason he's getting upset, I think, is because George is upset and he's like, I just want to like grab George and make sure that he's okay. And then he grabs the TV, and then that's when he sees that George is having like a hard time, right? Like on camera. And he's like, like he's getting nervous and scared on the television. And that's when he's like, oh, how can I help George? I'll lick this TV. I think he gets that George is not in the TV, but he's having like an overwhelming exposure of emotions that he's never really probably experienced before, because I think he's feeling more connected to these humans than he ever has to nature.
Anything. And at this point, we don't know if he's ever had any connection to anything.
Yeah, other than like he knows what a deer is, and he knows
he knows that
if
like
he finds one
mounted.
Yeah, he knows that a deer can't bury itself, so I'm gonna bury the deer. That's like as much as we know about Harry. But it's very like it exposes so much about him without doing anything. Like I think that like the amount of character revelation we have on this Bigfoot creature in this movie throughout the movie based on a character that can't speak is pretty masterful.
I'm honestly surprised this movie wasn't a bigger like thing with like sequels and stuff. There's even a bit of a sequel setup at the end, and you know, Harry can just come back out of the woods. They set up the fact that he's got potentially a family.
The doctor says like, this is just the beginning. And then you hear, and then it cuts to Nick Fury and he's looking at
the HCU.
Yeah.
Harry will return.
And the post credits is just him and George eating shawarma.
Yeah.
I wanted, so
they introduce Joseph Gordon-Levitt or whatever.
Harry Styles as some fucking F-list Marvel character, and then Hercules. Spoilers for late phase 4. Another interesting scene I want to talk about in relation to the interesting scenes earlier. There's this great moment where the police are chasing George. You kind of hear a radio off in the distance say a mob is now formed, which I was like, yeah, that's like, what? Why is there a Halloween 4 style mob just in downtown Seattle hunting a Bigfoot? You see an action shot of George being chased by the cops. Then he runs behind some garbage cans, and then the cops interact with a person off screen who's just a rando, who's just like a person with a gun. They take his gun and they go.
Rando Rambo. He had like the band. He had the.
Yep.
Yeah.
You see Harry go across in the background, and when it pans back down, it pans to George who's hiding, and it pans up to Jock who's behind him. And I thought,
you know what they should have done with him going in the background? They should have done like the classic, like the walk where he like does the behind the shoulder, like the
Bigfoot walk.
The Bigfoot walk.
That might have been a reference to that, even with what it was,
You're
of how
probably right. Yeah, I didn't really kind of think about it till just now, but yeah,
that's great. This whole, and then this next part with the garbage truck and the garbage bin and like them in it and all of this stuff, just I was like, this movie's doing too much for what it could have been like on the smaller scale side of things, but I love it more for them doing the sequence.
I think that it is elevating it above what it is. Like the movie is, you have an idea of what Harry and the Hendersons is when you go into it. We have like the previous development of knowing that it existed, or at least being in some way tangentially like connected to it through the pop culture and just knowing that it existed. Like Alex, you said you're like, I've never seen it before, but I knew that it existed. You have an idea of what Harry and the Hendersons is going to be, and it's not really this. It's not.
No, it's not at all.
It's not a man who's obsessed with killing Bigfoot and Bigfoot being in a dumpster that's going like 90 miles an hour down the road on a garbage truck, and they're, and he's about to kill him. You think it's going to be a lot cuter than this, and it's frightening.
It is at times, but it's definitely more high stakes.
And like that's why I brought the Ninja Turtles reference in earlier, is because to explain Ninja Turtles to somebody who doesn't know what it is, and then to show them the first Ninja Turtles movie, they would be like, "What the fuck?
This is for kids?"
Yeah, this doesn't seem like it's a kids movie. When Splinter's like,
"It will be sucky."
Yeah, I will be dead soon. Like Splinter is just talking about how he's gonna die soon the entire movie, and like it's all about teenagers having to
Casey Jones getting beat within an inch of his life.
And this movie kind of feels
Raphael yelling damn.
It's in that wheelhouse. And I think that like there was a time where family movies and kids movies were rightfully so kind of understanding that like these are meant to be tales of growth. So I can show this imagery and this scary stuff to an 8-year-old, and they'll be a little bit better prepared for the scary stuff.
It trusts the audience a bit more.
And they'll be better prepared to deal with the scary stuff that they might encounter 4 or 5 years
and
from
it's
now.
Less interjection where it's like, maybe this is too scary for a kid. Like, oh, we shouldn't have a gun because it's like a kid might be scared.
Mm-hmm. This movie's like, no, we'll show the gun and we're going to show it in such frightening detail, and we're going to shoot it so that it looks scary because it's supposed to be scary and they should be scared of guns.
I kept thinking of movies like Labyrinth, which are just frightening horror movies, but were marketed to kids, or like Neverending Story.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that
framed like that.
This is more frightening because it's more grounded in reality, even though there's a Bigfoot running around. Like Labyrinth, you can at least disconnect and be like, that's another world that doesn't exist. In this, it's like, no, Harry's here. He's in our world, and he's about to
he's in Seattle.
Head. Yeah, he's in Seattle, and this guy's about to blow his brains out.
And he's the only thing in Seattle. Seattle, like the nighttime shots of Seattle, I kept thinking, I'm like, should there be more people?
Yeah, doesn't Seattle have a good nightlife? It's like, no, it doesn't. It's just
No.
Sasquatches and Frenchmen running around.
It's 1987. There's a curfew except for the mob. That's why the police are like
bars
out of
close at
control.
8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ET's another
well-dressed
example.
men show up and they go, all right, everybody, time to pack it in. And then like another, like a truck shows up and a bunch of Bigfoot get dumped out into the streets.
The cops instantly are onto that dump truck. Like the garbage truck drives the garbage truck away, and the cops are like, after that garbage truck.
After that garbage truck.
There's
I also
definitely a
like,
Bigfoot in there.
It's going too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cops in this movie are all over the place. Like sometimes they seem like they do their jobs, and other times they seem like they could not.
like,
or they just assume that everything you say to them is a lie. They're like,
yeah,
shut up, lady.
Listen to this guy. Yeah.
You're telling me a Bigfoot is in your neighborhood right now? All right. Well, we're gonna call the National Guard. We're gonna close off your street.
We're gonna nuke Seattle, and
yeah.
You want me to call the president? Because I will.
Yeah.
I've got him on the red phone.
Yeah.
I can call the Oval Office right now. I liked we kind of covered most of the scene. We just sort of get like the chase scene of the movie. There was that great set piece where he slams on the brakes and the garbage bin goes flying. We already talked about that a little bit, and then
I think it's worth bringing up again. This is where we think that Bigfoot is going to get shot in the head because he's looking through the barrel of the gun, putting it up to his eye, and then the Frenchman is like, all right, I can just grab this and shoot him in the head now. And they do it. They show they show the Frenchman's like look of like, I know what I can do. They show his hand grabbing the gun. They show his finger going around the trigger. And you're like, oh, what the? And then, a homeless wino or whatever. He's drinking a big bottle of wine. And it shoots the dumpster off.
Is 87, so he was a lovable tramp at the time.
Well, I think that it's probably safe. Yeah, he was a lovable tramp, but I think it's safe to say that there was probably a version of this that was even probably shot where the sound of a gunshot goes off and you're unsure, and and Dick probably gets out and like runs up and is like, Harry, I okay, Harry, and like,
were you working on your John Lithgow all day? Because that was pretty.
That was a raw Lithgow, a raw Dick, as I call it.
His name is George in this movie.
Sorry, that was a raw George. But like that's what I was expecting, and I didn't see it, and it was like that was probably too scary. They probably did do that, where the gun probably went off. We thought Harry was dead, and he goes over, and Harry's like, like comes up, and makes a goofy noise or whatever. Am I wrong? You guys?
I don't know.
I don't know if that's real, but like that seems like something that was cut.
It seems like something that could have happened. But
like it was set up and not paid off, right? Like everything about it just felt like.
Well, they do. There is a gun, like a gunshot that goes off because when they first get into the dumpster, the gun falls and shoots. So I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to do that. I think that's like super dark.
I know, but like that's everything about that whole sequence is dark. And like, I talked about RoboCop earlier, kind of like jokingly, and like the TV moment like feels very RoboCop-ish. But everything about the film of this, the cinematography, the lighting, all of it is dark. Like it's all very dark and scary. And like the only thing that's not scary about this, which I think works, is Harry. Like even when he's in this situation with this man who wants to kill him, like he doesn't really
has so much innocence.
Yeah, he doesn't think that this man wants to kill him because his first action with humans is that they've been trying to like help him and take care of him. So he's kind of like, that's kind of spreading out to every interaction. He's like, well, if these guys like me, then everybody likes me, right? Like I'm Harry.
Yeah, I'm Harry.
Yeah, but this guy wants to kill him, and anyway, I don't want to keep piling on top of it. I just feel like that there was probably.
We get it. You wanted Harry shot in that dumpster.
No, I wanted there to be.
That's what I'm hearing.
A moment where we thought that he was dead, not that he was dead. That we thought that he was dead, and they didn't do it. And I'm going to call
this
them
kid's
cowards.
movie wasn't quite harrowing enough.
Yeah, We should have thought Harry was dead at least 3 times in this movie. Anyway,
Like Chewbacca in a later Star Wars movie.
oh, God.
Don't get me started.
I read the book where Chewbacca died when I was a kid, and it made me so sad for like 2 weeks. And it was a book, and it had been out for a while, so it's not like I. And I was like, Chewbacca died in the book. And my parents were like, why are you so upset about it? I'm like, because Chewbacca, he's like a dog. He's like our dog. He's our Star Wars
It hasn't
dog.
been retconned out to it's canon right now. It hasn't been retconned to not be canon yet, Mom and Dad.
Oh, I wasn't you, Jason. I didn't.
No.
Canon didn't really. It didn't play in.
You were just sad by that singular story.
Yeah, it was a sad story.
Well, here's something nice that happens. They're like, how do we get this stinky forest man who's already now covered in garbage juice?
My brain just went to Chewbacca getting hit by a car, and then Han going home to like Leia and being like, Chewie got hit by a car.
Is that what happened in the book?
No, but that's what I'm rewriting it in my head now.
Chewie and the solos?
Greedo, he wasn't dead. We were fighting him, and he shot first, and then Chewie got hit by a car, and he's gone. And Leia's like, dun, 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 you know.
Dun, 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 dun.
Anyway, Chewie got hit by a car. That's how he died in that book. And I was like, oh no.
They clean Harry up in a pool, which was a funny sight gag where you just see them pampering him you see the pool all murky. And
this is where I turned my brain off, where I was like, ugh.
But they made a point to show this pool like so clear because at one point Harry takes the
fender off of
the fender and whips it
throws
across
it in
the
there,
fence.
And the pool cleaner
and the pool guy. And
it's funny that it's the neighbor's pool because they hate the neighbor, and the neighbor does not know that they hate her. Like they all
Irene, yeah.
Which is like, I don't know. I've never really had that in my life. Have you guys ever had like a shitty neighbor who would come over and be like, "Hey, how's it going? You guys want some milk? Anybody having any Harry and the Henderson situations happening over here?"
I had a neighbor that I would try to avoid sometimes when I would go in because he would talk for like an hour if he cornered you.
Is he old?
No, he wasn't.
Oh.
He wasn't particularly old. He just didn't. I think he just a lot of times didn't want to go inside to his family.
Oh.
So he'd just talk and talk and talk. I was living with my grandparents, and anytime I would come home, and he'd be out on the porch talking with my grandmother, and my grandmother would be trying to get rid of him. But then I would just sneak in.
That's like next level. When an old woman is like, don't talk to me anymore. Fuck.
Yeah. Like she would just talk to him for like 2 hours to be polite and then come in. She'd be like, oh, I was out there, and he just wouldn't stop talking.
He would not shut the fuck up.
If all of us had said no there, I was going to say, are we all that neighbors?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't talk to any of my neighbors.
Yeah, 9 neighbors aren't annoying. I talk to them for hours at a time.
I used to try and talk
annoying
to
neighbors.
You guys know the house where I used to live. The next door neighbors, like the ones that would get crazy sometimes, like the slam on a barbecue on Halloween night and be like, "You need to grow up," and we're like, "Oh my god, sir!"
I do remember that.
We're 25 years old. Let us have fun. I tried to be friends with that guy, but it took me like saving him from getting arrested for him to like really be like, "Hey man, thank you." Anyway, I'll tell that story off mic.
Yeah.
Your mom's dropping bombs, though.
I was talking about Leon. Leon was the annoying neighbor. If you're watching Leon, I didn't find you that annoying, but my grandmother did.
That's hilarious. I did like the juxtaposition of the murky pool because it's stuck out in my mind as like they showed that pool, and there's that weird scene with the like pool cleaner. And like the other guy who like does the flowers, I guess, and she calls him Kimchi, and she's like, "My name's Kim Lee."
Kim Lee.
I mean, That's some like early woke behavior, I guess. Like, okay,
Yeah.
good job, 1987, for like having an Asian guy.
Her
being
not
like,
doing
what
a
the fuck,
worst
lady.
racist Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But also, like, my problem with her was not that she was racist. Like, everything
She's
else
just annoying.
about her is that she's so annoying. And then it's like, oh, and she's racist. Oh God, like this is like a nightmare neighbor. This is to the point that I would never allow her near my children because I'd be scared that she'd be like, have you noticed that Orientals are moving into the neighborhood? Like,
Yeah.
stop.
That's the kind of thing you would hear in 87.
I had kimchi over, and he was saying the flowers are no good.
I'm gonna move us forward a little bit.
He wasn't in the movie earlier, right?
No,
Like,
he wasn't.
Okay,
No.
I was like, did I miss something?
They just threw him in there to call him kimchi, I think.
Yeah, it was supposed to
And
be a
then move
funny
on.
joke. But I mean, it's not a bad joke. It's a bad joke, but it's like a bad joke that is retrieved by an Asian man being like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
She is the butt of the joke.
Yeah, she's the butt of the joke, yeah.
I just want to talk about that dinner for a sec. They have the dinner. The professor shows back up. He's basically like, you guys keep talking about this Bigfoot. I now believe that you might know him, but I got to tell you, I've been looking ever since I was a young boy. I saw a figure in the woods, and it was a big hairy monster, and it went by in a flash of light, but I know that Bigfoot doesn't exist. During this, they're asking, they're supposed to have a pot roast. The mom says the roast is resting in a shallow, unmarked grave in the yard. Also, as he's telling this story, he's like, I didn't tell you, so you would cry in your sprouts or whatever that is, which is such a weird, like, Simpsons-y kind of a joke that just made me chuckle. Like, why would you say that? Anyway, meanwhile, Harry comes into frame in the background, and he's slowly moving forward, and they end up seeing each other. And
the most stealthy that he has moved in the entire movie.
Yeah, for sure.
He does take a plant and takes a bite of it and slams it down, but I guess it's in a plastic potter that like
Right.
hits the carpet.
I do like, so that actor is like, he's prestige. He's like a prestige actor that they have in this movie. Like, he's been in like a billion things for years and years, but he's also got the energy of like an old musical actor from like the 50s and 60s, like he's kind of got that Dick Van Dyke energy where he's like, but like it's
I always think of him as from Trading Places, because he was one of the rich guys in Trading Places, and I haven't really seen him in too much, so in my mind I just see him as that guy, and he drops a hard R in Trading Places. So that's all I could think of anytime he was on screen, which is a little unsettling.
When I was looking at him,
bad guy.
I was like, this guy was probably in The Sound of Music at some point or something, right? As a young man, being like, yeah. What I mean to say is that he has the energy of like a Dick Van Dyke type, but you're like, okay, give me more in his like love for Bigfoot, and we're not disappointed. Like, his love for Bigfoot is expressed to us entirely in this dinner sequence with his speech to the whole family being like, we would all just love if Bigfoot were here right now. If Bigfoot were here right now, I'd give him a big kiss right on the mouth.
I'm surprised he didn't say he's standing right behind me.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a very he's standing right behind me moment.
That's what I was expecting, but I as I said earlier, I was expecting can nobody smell that? Like, that's what I thought it would be funny.
Gotcha, yeah.
But he's supposed to stand up and be like,
can't smell
oh, my thing that I've been studying my whole life. And then Bigfoot gives him like a light tap on the face, which is then like later reduced because he's like kind of slaps Sarah on the face and like knocks her over.
Yeah.
What?
We also do get the cutaway to what's Jock up to after the big city fight, and he's in prison. And I know
this is another like Monty Python style joke.
I thought it was
this
funny
is a Chitty Bang Bang style joke. Like, it's like, so it's very funny.
He's in a prison cell and he's covered in garbage juice, and like every time he's pacing back and forth because he's pissed off, and they're all moving to the other side. It's funny,
but it's like a circle, like they're like moving in a circle, like it's a radial effect, and it's visually very funny. Like it's
because
so
it's a
funny.
static.
Yeah, it's a good gag.
shot, like almost like a Wes Anderson shot.
And they're all like rough and tumble types. Like there's a biker.
Have you guys-
not
have
a
you guys, like-
cyclist, a motor biker.
Have you guys seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang the movie?
Not since I was like a little kid.
Alex?
I don't
The
know.
flying car, right?
It just like that gag of him moving from side to side in a circle from that flat angle as it's like kind of moving in it's like a very like 1950s visual gag that like still works because you're like
Sure.
they don't need to be like you stink, like you get it. You're like oh yeah, he smells bad. I understand what's going on.
Just like Harry.
Yeah, just like Harry. Yeah.
Are you playing with a measuring tape, Alex?
No, I'm not anymore.
What was that?
I was.
It was a thing, a 3D printed thing.
Oh, okay. I thought it sounds exactly like measuring tape.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote visual gag of Jacko being stinky. And also it cuts back to them like they make the plan to take Bigfoot back to the forest so Jacko doesn't get him, and the scientist just gets up and leaves. And then the funny thing, like he's so odd, he didn't even say goodnight or when he's coming back, and then he just comes back in with a
sleeping bag. Yeah, like his
sleeping bag.
He had like his Bigfoot go bag or whatever in his car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's again like the sensibility, the comedic sensibilities in this movie are very sort of like dry, and like it's funny. Like they don't even give you like enough time to like have it be like beat funny. It's like no, it's immediately we get it. Like it's hilarious. Also, like the entirety of that scene is Harry like bringing in branches and like putting them down
and setting up
in the
his
background.
own bed. Yeah,
And he's like, and they're like, all right, so, and he's like, all right, you'll hear from me soon. And he like leaves or whatever, and then he comes back in. And then he doesn't decide to sleep in the room with Harry. He decides to sleep in the room with Harry directly right next to him. He's like, I can learn more by sleeping directly.
I'm getting the most out of this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we get that really comforting shot in the morning where the kid who we haven't seen in a while, he's just kind of been in the background. He's sleeping between them, and the dog is also sleeping between them. My heart
and he has
grew
his little teddy bear
2 sizes. Yeah, and they basically
it feels like a like everybody, like the dog and the kid, because the kid is like primal sort of like desire, like I want to sleep with this giant fucking monkey man, and then the dog is like I want to sleep by the kid, and the kid is like, and then the scientist is like I'm sleeping here for scientific purposes. But like he also is just like I want to like sleep next to Bigfoot too. Like this is cool. It's nice. Yeah, it feels comfy. It feels sort of like storybook-esque, or like everybody wakes up in the morning and they're all just
like a live action.
They do have that one shot where it's outside of the house and you hear Harry snoring.
Yeah.
This movie feels like it's a remake of something that doesn't exist. It feels like a live action remake of something that never existed, like something from the 60s
like
or the
Bigfoot.
70s. Yeah, just a remake of that one Bigfoot photo. This is a remake.
Maybe that should be your staple of approval, Jason. It's like this feels like a remake of something that doesn't exist. It just means that it's good.
It just means that it's good. Yeah, I mean, I meant a cartoon specifically.
Yeah, no, I know.
Right.
We get the kimchi bit with the pool and stuff, and the roses are all cut off because we get that scene where Harry gets all of Irene's roses and gives them to Sarah, and then bops her over the head for.
Well, he ate her
he's trying to make up for his mistake
earlier.
But she also says, "Do you forgive me, Harry?" And I'm like,
"What?" Punches her in the face.
Like, what did she do?
She was pretty mean to him a lot of the time.
Okay, but I was also like doing shit while watching this movie, and like really, I would go back if I felt like I missed something. But I was like, what? Like I was like, did she call the cops on him or something? Or
no, she was just mean to him.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't miss anything. So she was just apologizing for yelling at him at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
it's crazy that it took an hour.
And being sarcastic,
she freaked out on him, and she apologized to him. Those were 2 roles.
She didn't have anything else to do for the rest of the movie.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So Jacko's skulking around in the bushes. We get that great back and forth where he sees her in the window, and then it turns George was actually there. And then they kind of have that little like, we got to get
How about
out
her
of
faint
here.
though? Can we talk about her faint for a minute? Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It goes on
the
for like a
longest
solid
faint
minute.
that has
Yeah.
ever happened. Like, like she looks like she's about to fall over, and then she's like, "Okay, okay," and then she's like, "Whoa." Also, she's threatening to cut his dick off, which is pretty.
Yeah, that
intense.
she does do that.
She says, "What did you do to my roses? Tell me, I'm gonna cut your stem off." Or no, she's like, "I'm gonna cut your rose off, stem, or like right to the butt, or
Yeah,
nip it
something
at the
like that.
butt or something." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Holy
yeah.
fuck!" And she's got like a turkey knife.
Oh yeah, she is a carver. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the first ever electric carver from
Yeah, the one that-
87.
That was probably a product placement.
Yeah, yeah.
People took their
The Wonder Slice or whatever.
Yeah, families went to this movie together, and everybody left with something. And certain people in the audience were like, "Hold on, that's cordless. Hold on, it's a cordless carver."
Yeah, it took 8 D-cell batteries.
Alex, your fucking sense of humor. You're like that.
Alex knows that big batteries make me laugh.
Yeah, because you forgot about how much battery. Like,
I did.
Something cordless back then was they were not fucking around.
You remember when like a battery was like the size of this? Like,
Yeah, exactly. It was like
it was like
having 4 Coke cans, and it lasted for 45 seconds. It was like
Just
a game.
to get
Yeah,
your
you have a
fucking
Game Gear. Yeah, Game Gear,
Yeah.
man.
My friend had a
was like
Game Gear.
classic.
And
yeah,
we used to
we're
play
taking
it.
our boombox to the beach. I brought
Yeah.
84D batteries. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
you
Yeah,
play
my
one
grandma
cassette.
let me rent Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine for GameCube at Blockbuster.
You play it to one game
And
over.
we spent
and that's it.
$45 on 8 AAs, and I get to play for 2 rounds.
Which battery prices have always been the same ever since I was a kid. They've always been overpriced, outrageously overpriced.
Yeah.
Anyway, this isn't a podcast about the price of
Magicians
batteries.
make them. There's like a cave of mages who are like, "We've made 80 batteries today." 80.
Okay, Jennifer Andrews.
Yeah.
Should
Holy
let
moly.
let that marinate for
Yeah.
a sec.
Yeah.
Speaking of marinating, there's this terrible segue, but it's a great sequence of like they try to get into a car to get away. The professor decides I'm going to take the tires out of Jock's car to slow him down, but then he just steals the station wagon.
Why
from
did
the
they
start.
take that red jalopy? I don't know.
I don't know,
They
just like
hop
it
in like
fit-
the fucking
the whole family
T16
into it?
Skyhopper and just boogie out of there.
Yeah.
My
I
brain
guess they
is
needed
like,
it to leave a smoke trail or something.
Yeah, the end of this movie kind of like mashes together in my head where I'm like, I don't even really it's a lot of car stuff. There's a lot of car gags happening. Like he becomes a siren, and he also does like
So-
the head.
Oh yeah, the
thing.
siren on the bridge.
Yeah.
I had a problem with that actually because they should have telegraphed it earlier in the movie where he sees like an ambulance on TV or something. Maybe that got cut.
Well, he hears
then-
an.
I mean,
he hears a
the
siren.
cops go by like 10 seconds earlier.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's emulating
okay,
a sound he heard.
Okay,
And that's
I missed
fun.
that.
Like, you know, it's like a dog when your dog like matches the pitch to a siren that goes by or whatever, and they're like, ooh, and like
What's wrong with your dog?
that's what they do. What do you mean? What's wrong with your dog?
I don't. My dog's a cat.
Oh, okay, that's the issue. Your cat's like,
There's your problem right there. Yeah.
They get up to the woods, and we get a real go on get scene, which broke my heart as a kid, and then did all over again as an adult.
Yeah,
And
see,
I
that's the
did
only
not-
thing from the movie that I knew.
That's the one you remember is like,
Yeah, because I remember without ever seeing it, because so many things have like parodied it. It's definitely the only thing that I think if you've never seen the movie is in the cultural zeitgeist of the movie.
Yeah,
It's
I would
also
agree with
the
that.
only thing that if you've never seen the movie, when you see it, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Also, here's my brief impression, my brief history of this movie. I thought that's how the movie ended.
Right.
I thought that was the last time we'd see Harry, so I was kind of like, it's like, damn, this is sad. You know what I mean? Like this, like this
Get
is
outta
sad
here.
but necessary. I
And
thought we were
slap
learning
him.
a tough lesson.
I think it was a little bit too much.
Yeah, well, I thought so too. But then the movie kept going, and I was like, oh, I guess there's more.
We'll get some more out of this. But the thing is that then makes us realize that like Harry understood the situation, but he came back and helped, and then he left on his own accord, which means he could have left on his own accord to begin with. He didn't need to get slapped in the face and told like, I don't love you anymore. Like
yeah,
that kind of
You're
stuff.
just a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
then
think
they realized the tracks or whatever.
Yeah,
are
and like
happening.
the thing in the movie is that like I think it's supposed to be that they don't understand that he understands as well, right? Like,
Yeah, well, it's like I said earlier, Harry understands as much as the scene requires him to understand in any given moment.
Right.
Because sometimes he's you know what I mean? It's like he could be watching Johnny Carson and has his feet kicked up, and he's like, oh yeah, that's hilarious what you're saying in English. And then other times he's just like a drooling moron.
Yeah. But I mean, that's also what I said about like Paint by Numbers really early on, which is like they need the scene where Dick is yelling at him and slapping him because like that's what they do in other movies. So we need to have that here.
Yeah.
And they're like, but we can't end that because it's going to be too traumatizing for everybody. So we'll have another moment where it's then put back.
Where luckily they have like 35 Bigfoot foot imprints.
Yeah. And also 35 more minutes to fucking go.
This is like it's an hour and 50 minutes, and I'm watching this part and I'm like, how is there 25 minutes left in this movie?
Yeah.
Luckily
as he's slapping him, I look down at the time bar and I'm like, what? Hold on, what?
Yeah.
Even if I incorporate 10 minutes for credits, this seems like a lot of time left in this movie.
They also do the footprint thing because when he walks off into the woods, they realize, oh well, Jacko's going to see the footprints that he just created.
Yeah, he can track him for 2 or 3 miles, no problem.
But the kid says, Ernie says, we'll be able to find him again, no problem, because of his footprints. And they all go, oh my goodness. And realize. So then we get a scene of them just with strapped on Bigfoot castings, stomping around in the snow with that one spot of snow. And then also Harry is up in a tree with birds on him, watching the whole thing.
Summer, and it's been summer.
Yeah.
Now it's all of a sudden not.
And then on top of that, all of that is for naught because
because Harry blows it right away.
Yeah, he just jumps out of the tree and they have their final battle basically. And
and Jacko's sniping trees like nobody's business.
Yeah,
he's got the worst shot in the land because he's just shooting a rifle from the hip.
And he's shooting trees like crazy. It reminded me of The Jerk with Steve Martin, where he's shooting the cans.
Are they going to say like Predator, where they're just like,
oh yeah, no, it's like Jacko hates these trees.
I can't tell you, Jennifer. You got to follow us on social media. Spoiler alert: it's American Werewolf in London next week.
Oh.
With one of our besides Alex, one of our first big celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, we've had a couple celebs on the old program. The dog saves the day.
Yeah,
Bob jumps in like a hellion and takes out. I guess he kind of takes out Jacko.
And then Jacko throws him or whatever.
Yeah, Jacko then kicks Harry in the nuts.
I have a note here that says Jacko kicked Harry in the balls. In 1987, this was the funniest thing that anyone had ever seen. That's my note.
Especially where it takes him a second to
react. Yeah, the delay. Yeah, the fuse is lit.
I think if you like listen close enough, when it hits, there's like a 2, 3, 1, and then you just hear you just hear the America's Funniest Home Videos music start.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is of course dun, 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 dun. That's funny. It's a really funny gag. I'm glad it's on the soundboard now. But then George is going to fucking murder Jock, which is like he's like shedding his humanity or something.
Yeah. I'll kill you.
I think he's realizing that, like, you know, every monster that he's ever killed in the woods that was just a doe or a deer or a female deer, he understands that, like, I'm the monster, and then he becomes the monster, but then he's like, I'm gonna kill the true monster, which is this guy who just wants to kill Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Right.
But then Harry just kind of hugs both of them, pats them on
Yeah.
the head.
And then Poirot is like, don't let him kill me. Don't let him kill me. And it's like, he's not going to kill you. He just wants to give you a
He's
big
clearly
old hug.
in the act of not killing you.
Yeah.
No, I think he was talking about George. He's saying to Henry, George is going to kill me. Don't let him kill me to George.
No. Later on, I'm talking like they leave him with Harry, and they're like, well, you're with Harry now. And he's like, no, don't let him kill me, please.
I can't shoot for shit. I'm French.
I don't understand how a gun works. Only guns with big bullets that never miss.
Can I get the actual title drop sound, please?
God.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
So let me qualify it by saying they never say, and that's Harry and the Hendersons, but there is a fun moment like right at the end where
they didn't say that. I thought
the professor says that's Harry Henderson, and I thought that was close enough.
Yeah,
but then a guy afterwards says, and he goes, and then the dog.
That's a Terminator, and that's a Terminator 2. Judgment Day.
It's Judgment Day.
Judgment Day.
Yeah, and basically everybody's happy, and the ending is nice. Oh my God, so happy family and friends.
Yeah,
and I love you.
All
and
is
then
forgiven.
They see a family.
It is the longest fucking ending I've ever seen. Where I'm like, we get it, but they keep doing more. Where I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and then he's finally leaving, and then George is like, "Wait, Harry,
come back!"
Like, no, don't call him back now.
Yeah, no, he's leaving.
Wait, there's more of you. Let's get a whole
and then they show
family
them more, and then
I
have a note there that says Harry Henderson is a deadbeat father.
He's been just gallivanting with this family.
He would have stayed there forever. It's not a theory; it's confirmed. He would if he had the option, he would have sat there watching Addams Family until he died of natural causes, leaving his little Big Feet family. What's the collective for a Big Feet? Is it Big Feet? Like
Bigfoots?
It's like a Payless of Big
the guy
Feet?
from Lord of the Rings, like the Proud Feet.
Yeah, Big Feet. Or like a blur of Big Feet.
Yeah, it would be.
That would be a collective noun. A blur of Big Feet.
A blur.
A blur, yeah, like the pictures.
Like a murder of
like the pictures, yeah. Great. Blur of Big Feet.
Yeah.
Love it. I also wanted to just make mention that Jock and the Duck Go to Loch Ness should be the name of the sequel to this.
Jock, Lock, and Doc.
Yeah. I can't believe that
so
this
good. What the
tries
fuck?
to do 2 sequel setups, and we don't even get all we get is a sitcom. I want to watch the sitcom and see if any of these characters show back up.
But
like,
hold on,
I want to not watch it.
I think that Doc and Jock being the sort of catalyst for a franchise is way better than it being like, let's follow Harry and the Hendersons. Harry and the Hendersons get their spin-off sitcom. Doc and Jock are the ones that go around and establish the MCU version of this, where they're like diddlin, 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 diddlin. They're going on like a plane to Loch Ness.
Tim says a
cryptid initiative.
A herd of Harry.
Jock refers to it when he sees all the footprints. Doesn't he say it's a goddamn herd or whatever?
Yeah,
he does. He refers to them as a herd.
He takes his sunglasses off and he goes, "They do trap."
Yeah, they do move in herds.
Yeah. Oh wait, that's pretty. Yeah, an adult Ernie, like the Friday the 13th. He's now 45, but it's 3 years later.
Harry took everything from
so what would be
Nessie and the Nesters?
Oh man, this is an all-timer.
Oh, man.
Speaking of Alzheimer's, why don't we do that thing that we do? Well, if you guys have any more notes that you didn't cover, we should probably do that because I wrote too much for this one.
Harry Henderson is a deadbeat father was my final note.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the Home Alone of it all.
My last note was slapping him was too much.
Yeah.
One of 6 notes you wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of slapping in this movie.
Yes. Jason, where are we now?
The Home Alone of it all.
If you had to pick one,
what do you think the Home Alone of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
For the individuals who are new here, and sometimes for our multiple time guests, I should mention the Home Alone of it all is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, everybody is there to see the moment in the movie where Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint and starts plotting obscene revenge on Harry and Merv. We've over the years determined that could, be that, or it could just be
Merv or Marv. I thought it was
It's
Marv.
I always say Merv by accident.
Okay. You say it every
Is
week
it
in
the
the
same
mic.
Harry as Harry and the Hendersons?
Oh, whoa.
That's another one. Is Harry and Marv are like?
Yeah.
He's like, Harry, what's going on? He's like,
Anyway, it can also just be like kind of your favorite part of the movie, but not your final thought, and also could just be like the part in the trailer. Anyway, much like the beginning, the guest goes first. So, Alex, what's your Home Alone of it all for this one?
I'm torn. Usually I have a pretty clear idea. I think with this less so. For me, it might be when they kind of are no longer like standoffish with him and he becomes more of like part of the gang, I think maybe. And now it's like the hijinks part where it's like, let's see how he interacts in normal human society and not as a loose animal who's like rampaging through the house and messing up the fridge and stuff. So I'd say probably maybe like the clear light of day after the first night would be when it's like, oh, now it's kind of a fish out of water story, less than a bye, Jennifer. You know what I mean? Less of like he's a scary monster and now he's like a quirky Bigfoot man. I think that's probably it for me.
That's pretty good, man.
mine's,
how about you?
Mine's close to that. I have a specific moment within that, though. Am I able to like microcosm your answer into my
Sure,
answer?
sure. You
So-
can say when he's on the ladder.
No, mine is when Mom grabs the drawer and is like, you think she's looking for a knife, and she pulls out the aerosol and just
Oh yeah.
and he like and like starts to go towards the smell. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, he's controllable. You can control him. You can
Yeah.
you can de-escalate a situation where he's wrecking your entire kitchen just from simple aerosol spray.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes the movie that we know we're here to see, which is like Harry and the Hendersons. He's Harry.
Yeah, it's
Here's
not Harry
the
versus the
Hendersons.
Hendersons
Yeah,
anymore.
it's-
Now it's Harry and the Hendersons.
I watched Harry versus the Hendersons, and he killed them all with a sink. From the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Which you just ripped out with one hand.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a good one. Mine's kind of a two-parter this week. And this has been happening more and more for movies that I saw a lot as a kid and then later on. I disconnect it from what I remember about the movie and more so what I liked about the movie this time around. For me, this time it was Harry on the Loose in Town is a section of the movie, which for some reason was like new to me. I don't remember any of that, but that is like the section of the movie I'm here to see. Traditionally, it would have been that first 97 minutes where he's just punching holes in the wall in the house. Because that's like what I remembered about the movie. But I really enjoyed the set piece of like that little bit of Seattle downtown at night from when he smashes out the screens to after they get out of the dumpster. That's my new Home Alone of it all. And with that, we come to a section of the show which is known as the MPAA rating game.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ernie Harry and the Hendersons. And this week, we're talking about a little game that I'm going to let my co-host explain because I'm not allowed to anymore.
Well, Jason, the reason you're not allowed to anymore is because you just can't. You can't do it. You don't know how. So, Alex Gow, our guest, you're going to be facing me, the reigning champion, the only one to ever guess correctly. What we need to do is find a 3-digit number between 999 and 000. This, of course, is the last 3 digits of the MPAA rating number. When a movie is given an MPAA rating, PG, R, whatever, it's also given a specific certificate number. And we're looking for that. Jason's going to give us the first 2 numbers of a 5-digit code, but we're looking for the last 3 digits, 999 to 000. Jason, give us the first 2.
That's right, Steve. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The first 2 digits this week are 28, which is completely inconsequential.
You say that,
Alex, go ahead.
but that means if it's 28, then it has to be 613.
It is, of course, lower.
Well, if it's 28613, it could only be 28300.
Your second guess, Alex, it's higher than that.
Then it has to be 467.
Well, Steve, it's actually higher than that.
Well, then it has to be 515.
Alex, it's higher than that.
Higher than 515. Jason, do me a favor. Get the fuck out of town. I'm going to say...
My name's Ernie Harry and the Hendersons, so...
516.
Steve, your final guess, it's higher.
5 8 1.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. That is incorrect. Oh, can't play that. No, that's the here we go.
Dun, 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 dun.
That should be the winning theme. Nope, the MPAA number for this week, and hold on to your hats. It's 28567. 28567. You guys were circling the drain. I feel like if we had a 4.
I think I dropped. Did I say 467 at one point?
Yeah, you said this. You definitely said a 67. You got close, but not a single cigar was smoked on this day. And with that, we'll get to our final thoughts.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Before I give my final thoughts, I just want to say to Tim, Chewbacca would beat Harry hands down.
Oh yeah, if you
ready
guys
for combat, no problem.
If you guys want to Ansel and Gretel this, what do you think, Steve? Who wins? Harry, Henderson?
I mean,
Chewbacca?
the only issue.
Weapons.
Well, the only issue is that we never really see how proficient Harry is in combat. I know that Chewie can rip someone's arms off, but I only know that he can rip a non-Chewie's arms off. Like he can go up to another Wookiee and probably fight them, but I don't think he could rip their arms out of their sockets in the same way that he could to like a Rodian or something, When it comes down to Harry versus Chewbacca, I think they're of same sort of like size and maybe combat prowess, but Wookiees are trained in combat from like a young age, so I think that he would also be already kind of like on the cusp. Also, Wookiees have claws that they're not really allowed to like I was gonna say ejaculate from their bodies, but like they're not allowed to like draw their
Brandish
claws.
them.
Yeah. And I don't think that Harry does. I think he just has regular old.
Chewie's got that dog in him, dude.
They make a whole thing about him not having claws or sharp teeth. So
yeah.
I would have to say that I'm gonna go with Chewbacca. However, if Harry sat down and watched 50 hours of wrestling, he's got weight on Chewbacca, I think.
Yeah.
I think
He just has to watch it and understand
Yeah.
it. I mean, you know what? This movie proves that he does like absorb things very much
yeah,
like a
that's
sponge.
true.
Yeah, he
I
might.
think there's a subtext where, he's absorbing information.
I'm
rapidly.
surprised there wasn't like a late 80s like WWF event where it's like, and Harry from the Hendersons is here.
It's a special attraction to fight Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
At summer camp '92.
The best, brother, but he isn't. He's only the best where he comes from, the woods, and I'm gonna send him back to the woods.
Send you back to the woods, home fresh.
And who eats who is Chewie would eat Harry because Harry's a vegetarian.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
He ate porgs in the movie where people were like, "We love porgs," and he's also eating
like,
a porg in that movie. Yeah,
burps like Homer after eating a porg, like a Cheeto.
There's a moment in Return of the Jedi where like the entire
they bait him with that bat. It's just a dead animal, Chewie.
The story has relied on a moment of Chewie's inability to not just go eat raw meat hanging
carcass.
from a tree.
He's like an extremely intelligent being for
he can repair your ship
2.8 movies, but then there's just a dead bat on the ground.
Why does our view count keep going up every time you guys mention Star Wars?
It's the algorithm.
The algorithm, brother. Well, speaking of algorithms, Alex, why don't you give us your final thoughts for this film, Harry and the Hendersons, and if you have a rating that you'd like to give it, whether it be out of 5, out of 10, or completely nonsensical, that is up to you.
Yeah, you know what? I liked it. I like pretty much everything I watched, but it was a lot. The stakes were higher. I thought it was going to be very, not childish, but way more kid friendly. So I found myself surprised a lot while watching it. I was like, oh shit. You know what I mean? They raised the stakes. There was a lot more messaging in it than I thought. I thought it was, you know what I mean? I thought it was just going to be kind of like whatever. It was going to be about a funny ape man. I thought it was going to be just very fish out of water.
There's going to be a lot of
Harry,
put that down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Harry. Yeah. And all in all, I think it did a lot of things right. And I think that had I seen it when I was younger, it definitely could have been in my wheelhouse for sure. As for a rating, I don't know. I guess I got to give it a number. I didn't come up with a funny rating this time. It's just a solid, 4 out of 5.
I appreciate that. I love a out of 5 rating. How about you, Steve? What's your final thought for Harry and the Hendersons?
I'm very glad that we did this movie on the show because it is one of those things, as Alex said in the early days of this very episode. I'm aware of it. I know it exists, and I know that it was important at some point, and that's how I've always felt about this. Where I've always kind of known Harry and the Hendersons as like this weird sort of ghost of my childhood, where I saw the show, I saw the movie, all of it on TV, but no one ever really was like, Harry and the Hendersons, have you seen this? You got to watch it. It's a great movie. But now that I've watched it for this, in preparation for this, it was like no preparation. But as I watched it, I was like, no one prepared me for the amount of like actual sort of like business it takes care of.
Yeah.
It does a good job of like presenting you with the idea of animal cruelty. It does a good job of letting you sort of like understand what it means to interact with maybe people who are different from you. The idea of gun control, all of this stuff exists in this movie as early as early as the year that, or around the year that all of us were born. Like these issues that we're still sort of like grappling with are alive and well in this movie. And like, you know, it's a fun movie, but it's also dealing with some pretty serious stuff. And that's not why I like this movie. I like this movie because it's funny and it's charming and like it's full of good performances and interesting sort of visual language when it comes to camera. Like they understand what they're doing here. They're not going to just sit back and be like, we're making a comedy, we're making a family movie, we're making whatever. No, they're like, we're going to have horror elements for the first 50 minutes of the movie, and then we're going to abandon that completely. They get rid of that, all of that. Like the first 50 minutes of the movie is full of well thought out horror camera angles. And then after that, it's like, we need to be worried about Harry, and every camera angle switches to almost like an action camera angle where like when you see Harry, he's like running or he's scared or like it's not as, but then cut up between that is comedy. Like the comedy angles are there as well to break everything up. It's wild. It's crazy. It's like it's a thing that maybe shouldn't exist, but I'm glad that it does. When it comes down to a rating, I think that I would give this a ritualistic burial of animal carcasses by a man who's never done it before.
That's good. That's a good in summation. For me, this family was way wackier than I remembered somehow. Like I was saying earlier, kind of like a cartoon come to life for the era, which is interesting. It rides the line between 80s family comedy and sci-fi fantasy horror weirdness. Special effects for Henry. I wrote Henry. The special effects for Harry are incredible.
Henry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
The special effects, which we talked about a lot in the episode, for Harry are incredible, even by today's standards, because now they make it a CGI mess, I'm sure. Or you remake this movie and make it a throwback. But that's besides the point. Great heartwarming tale. I think everyone should see, even if you didn't have it as a kid. And I talk about a lot. There's a lot of movies we've covered on this show where I'm like, I should have had this in my mental zeitgeist, like Big Trouble in Little China. After that movie was over, I called my dad. I was like, why didn't you show this to me as a kid? And he was like, I don't know, you got Ninja Turtles instead. I give this movie a 3.7 out of 5. I give this movie a go on get out of a possible get out of here. Don't you see we don't want you?
We don't love you anymore.
And we can really only ask that people who watch this show who haven't seen the movie but have a good time go watch the movie regardless, because typically the movies.
Well, it sounds like Alex Wendy M is here because of you, but
come for the Harry Sons, stay for the Hendersons.
Hey-o.
Oh, that's good. That's a good tagline.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want this movie now.
Chewie and the Harrisons.
Chewie and the Harrisons.
Alex Lithgow. Oh, what a tremendous night. I want to actually just thank everybody for coming to the chat tonight. It was a big deal. And now we'll do a little bit of the old we didn't give you last week. I just realized the chance to do a plug, or if you don't have anything to plug, just a message to the world. How did you look genuinely surprised? I saw genuine surprise on your face.
I have nothing to plug. I would say maybe if you hit something with your car, if you hit a wild animal, don't take your kid and just put your kid really close to it when you find out that it's a sentient ape monster. Because in real life, sentient ape monsters might not be as friendly as Harry Henderson was in Harry and the Hendersons. Be safe out there. If you can't see the road, wear your sunglasses. Don't try to be a tough guy in front of your wife. Just put the sunglasses on and don't run over strange animals / manimals. That's my message.
That's good. Thank you.
I could have saved lives tonight. I'm a hero.
It's true. And you're,
Here's what I'll plug. Watch all my other episodes. Watch all the episodes, but watch all my episodes twice.
You breathe rarefied air, my friend, because tonight I'm going to be putting up a playlist of your episodes because you've now reached the 5-time club. 5 times, buddy, and they're all hits. This kid does numbers, and this kid was going to do good overnight stuff, and I can't wait to see how that shakes out. So, Steve, what are you promoting this week? What do you got on the radar?
So on the Darth Theorist channel, I have just dropped one that I edited, and I'm kind of proud of it. But I have another one coming out quite soon that I am editing currently, and I think it's gonna fucking change the channel. I think people are gonna understand that I know what I'm doing when it comes
don't
to
change
music
the channel
and videos and everything. But the channel is great. But like I'm gonna change some things. I'm gonna make sure that they remember.
You'll all pay.
Are you gonna kill a guy?
No, it's. I don't want to say what it is because it like I don't want to ruin it, but it's gonna be good. Also, I'm on a new meditation channel, my voice, and that's kind of interesting. It's called Step Forward. I'm also on another channel called Naked Crime, which is like about the body cam footage of police officers and kind of like breaking down and criticizing it. And what else? Arcane Archive and Dr. O. Check them out. Check them all out.
Yeah. I'm glad that you do all this extra stuff.
Yeah, and every once in a while I make something for our channel.
Yeah.
Jason, you don't pay me, so I have to do it on my own free time where I feel nice.
I thank you for all that you do here on hey, did you see this one? That's what I'll be promoting this week, this very podcast. Arjun just entered the chat on Instagram. I just noticed. Hi, Arjun. Nice to see you at 11 o'clock as always. But
Arjun's here.
The literal Green Ranger of the show. I'd like to promote this show. Hey, did you see this one? You can find us each and every week here on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram Live. And you can find me. I do a little wrestling show as the announcer every month here in Toronto. It's called Super Kicked. Like I said, I am the announcer for that. So I go up in front of a whole ass audience and say, hey, the following contest, I do it much better than this. I do it much better than this. Everybody's saying how much better I do than I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to just get this thing in the chat here so you can see. I do it every month. We've got a show coming up in 2 weeks here in Toronto at the Great Hall. Outside of that, I'm just kind of a cool guy to be around. With that, though, yeah, good call. Good call. That doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
Thank you. I love you, Jason.
I love you too, Steverino. There is only. Do you want me to do the ending stuff as normal?
Yeah, I do, because I've never done it and I don't know how.
Okay, this is the end.
I'm coming, brother. Almost there.
Speaking of that, hey Alex, there's one question we like to ask each and every week on this show, and I put the floor to you to ask that question for us.
Hey, did you see this one?
Harry and the Hendersons. Harry and the Hendersons. Harry and the Hendersons are fucked. They're fucked up, guys.
I think that Bigfoot should be allowed to vote.
I think they should only be allowed to vote based on the length and width of their feet.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, Did You See This One? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.